as interim England Test captain. He could stay in the role until the end of next summer's home Ashes. That's after Ben Stokes walked away from the job last month. And at the Commonwealth Games, Adam Ramsey-Petey's through to tonight's 100-metre breaststroke semi-final, but he's not happy with a 15-minute delay for a broken lane marker in his heat.
I mean, it's not ideal. It's like going to get your car MOT and then waiting another 5 hours, I guess. But for me, you've got a job done there. See what we do in the semi-final.
talkSPORT's live coverage of the Commonwealth Games continues tonight from 7 p.m.
talkSPORT News.
The Southport killer's been accused of manipulating the system over his transfer to a psychiatric hospital, and police have intercepted a car bomb near the Irish border. Emma has more at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. For a limited time only, get 10% off 2 or more selected premium tyres in our big summer sale. Visit quickfit.com and book today. Conditions apply.
England and Wales dry with plenty of sunshine. In the southeast, it's feeling particularly warm. Northern Ireland and Scotland, though, cloudier with patchy rain.
Anthony Joshua is on the road to destiny. But first, there is danger. Prenga, 20 wins, 20 knockouts. And AJ knows, one moment, one mistake, one punch will change history. AJ is back. But there is danger before destiny.
This is Max Scott and Andy Jacobs back with you until 4 here on talkSPORT, where this afternoon, Andy, what we got coming up?
Well, coming up over the next 3 hours, Steve Bruce joins us. We're chatting to him about all the midfield options at Old Trafford and what the future holds for Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, we're also going to be joined by German football expert Ralf Honigstein to talk Jurgen Klopp. Now that he's officially been confirmed as the new Germany boss, we're going to digest those explosive press conference comments. Bit of a threat.
Well, but you can't stop the press doing what they're going to do, but we'll see. Plus, we're heading live to Saudi to preview the big Anthony Joshua fight. Transfer guru Ben Jacobs joins us with all the latest whispers from the window, and we'll fly over the Atlantic for a full US sports roundup with Todd Macklin.
Yes, so stick around. You can get your texts in 81089 if you want to give us a call. 03717 223344. You're listening on your radio, but also watching on smart TV, YouTube, TikTok, the lot. So thanks for joining us. Up until 4 p.m. What's the latest? Mate?
Well, I spotted this humanoid robot futuristic football tournament. It's incredible. No, they look brilliant, these robots. There was a 55-team tournament, and apparently the head of the robot FIFA, Gianni Robotino, said the next one's going to have 110 teams.
Oh, gosh.
Marvellous.
So
it's the future.
Do you reckon there's a world where there is a human sort of versus humanoid tournament?
I do. When you look at these look how realistic they are.
Crikey Moses.
And they're going to have good engines, aren't they? Let's be honest. Be able to get up and down. I mean, it's robot jockeys, it's all going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, we're all being replaced.
We are.
And but to be fair,
I've already been replaced.
We've got a few days off, though. Maybe by the time we come back, Andy, maybe this is our last hurrah.
Yeah, an AI version of me would be much more efficient, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and it wouldn't have to sort of do the newspaper clippings and stick them on pieces of paper in an orderly fashion.
Very true.
It would just know all the stories.
Yeah, it's very true. So that's that. And this piece fascinated me as well. The Star did a piece because Andy Burnham, the new Prime Minister, not a plumber, it supports Everton. It's obviously the new Prime Minister. They went through and listed the teams that previous Prime Ministers had supported. Sort of, and ones you'd kind of expect. Harold Wilson was Huddersfield Town, and Gordon Brown was Wraith Rovers, because that was the area he came from. But this one fascinated me. Ted Heath, the Conservative leader, is believed to have supported Burnley.
Fair play to him.
No, but he never. A posh southern bloke from, I don't know, Chichester or somewhere. I think it seems unlikely to be a Burnley fan. Maybe he was.
Maybe
Burnley fans can tell us why
there was a family connection. We had Greg.
He did
Rutherford
open
in
the
yesterday.
Bob Lord stand, apparently.
There you go. Greg Rutherford was in yesterday. He's a United fan, even though his great-grandfather played for Arsenal. It was
really?
Yeah, it was really nice. 100 years after his great-grandfather played at Hampden Park,
Wow.
Greg Rutherford won his gold at Hampden Park in the Commonwealth Games in 2014, I think it was.
Well, I never knew that.
Well,
that brings us on to a
yes.
new subject. Do we have that music or not? Should we do this without the music?
I think it's on its way.
We have the music? I can't tell.
Yeah, we've got the music.
Okay. Well, here we go. Certain listeners of a certain age will recognise this as Gil Scott-Heron. Brilliant Gil Scott-Heron. And I was watching a thing on YouTube. It was an old whistle test where they had loads of acts from the 70s. And Gil Scott-Heron came up. And they always have this sort of info about these people.
Yeah.
And I know quite a lot about this guy. But what I didn't know, that his father, Gil Heron, and listeners will know this, but I didn't, was the first black player to play for Celtic. He signed in 1951. And so I thought to myself, other things that you didn't realise. For example, Georgia didn't realise that the Commonwealth Games isn't Team GB. There's all the different things. So there are lots of things. I didn't know that. So if you've got I didn't know that, you can let us have it.
Yeah,
we'll know.
Give us a text,
But
81089.
I never realised that.
Yes. I mean, it's a slightly different sort of approach. I never realised how hard work puppies would be. So me and my partner got a puppy.
I know you've got one, haven't you?
Just during the first week of the World Cup when I was getting up 7 days a week at 3:45.
It's like a baby. It's like having a baby, isn't it? I've been told.
I mean, I've never had a baby, and I would never want to be that guy that is trying to compare the two, because there'll be new parents listening now thinking, who do you think you are? It's not the same thing.
Well, I don't know.
For where I'm at in my life at the age of 33, this puppy with a very busy, demanding job, he's lovely, he's adorable, but crikey, Moses has been hard work. So hard work. So I never realised how
have you bonded?
Puppies would be.
Have you bonded?
Oh, we have bonded.
That's
but
good.
he's in the regression phase.
Oh, I see.
And so the first thing he did when he came into the apartment was he weed on this really nice rug that we've got, and then so we moved the rug to remove the challenge for him, and then we put it back, and he's perfectly potty trained, no mistakes in about 2.5 weeks, and then yesterday, rug comes back out,
Really?
and he's peed on it.
That's amazing.
But they do go through periods of regression, I'm told. Well, that's what ChatGPT told me. But maybe he's just telling me because he knows it's going to make me feel better. I never realised until the other week that Stephen and Neil Warnock weren't father and son. Tom the Stoke fan. Fair enough,
No, that's the sort of thing,
absolutely.
really. And this is a slightly disturbing story, but will lead. I don't know if it should lead to a cool subject. I can't decide. A hedgehog that was deliberately painted blue and yellow, the colours of Leeds United, has died. That's really sad, isn't it?
That is sad. Has he died because he was painted blue and yellow?
Apparently it's not great to paint hedgehogs. He was found covered in thick oil-based paint in a garden in Leeds. Police are investigating. It's a bit of an odd thing to do. I could imagine you might do a tortoise in club colours.
Yeah. On a hard shell. Not necessarily on his skin, soaked into the pores of the poor hedgehog.
Not recommended if you've got a tortoise and you're a fan of a particular club. Don't do it, but, I expect you might.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, sticking on club colours and my dog, Goose, he's already got a forest collar. He's got a forest bandana on the way. So nice to have another member of the Forest family. Really nice text here. 2, joining your text topics on Gil Scott-Heron. Did you know that Gil Scott-Heron also did the voiceover for the Tango advert with Ray Wilkins? You know when you've been tango.
No, I didn't know that. There you go. I never realised.
Yeah.
That's smart. That's a good one.
Thanks for that, Ben. Brilliant stuff.
Good.
So
I did have a stupid cool subject off the back of that. Footballing animals. I've got Len Badger, Cyril Voles, and Animal Medry.
love that.
There you go.
Get them in as well. 8, 10, 89.
We're both on the beach today.
We're
let's be
both on the
honest.
beach. It's been a long World Cup. We've both been working hard, and this is our last day, so we're kind of on the wind down a little bit.
We're not as bad as France in the first half.
No,
against
crikey
England last
Moses,
week.
that was terrible, wasn't it? Poor Didier Deschamps. Although he did get a good reaction in the second half.
He did. We'll be better after 2:30.
Yeah.
That's the theory.
Well, someone getting back in the seat, of course, is Jurgen Klopp. We're going to be speaking to Ralph Honigstein a little bit later on, and looking forward to doing that. But you know, these comments, essentially, if you come for me and my family, I will leave. You're not sure that's quite going to work, Andy.
I don't think it will. I mean, because the idea that that somehow puts a barrier. So what's Jurgen saying? Is he saying if Germany play and they stink the place out, well, the press is supposed to go, well done, Jurgen, that was fantastic. Thanks very much. You know, they're not going to do that. They're going to, and they've got the right to do that. They've got the right to question the manager. No, they haven't got the right to make it personal. I think they've got the right to go after his family. No, none of that. But to, for him, maybe that's what he's saying. Don't go after my family.
I think it's probably a bit of both. You know, he said it. You know, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing it for you.
So that's
rather high and mighty.
It is a bit. I feel like that about this show.
Doing it for the good of the nation.
I'm doing it for you, listeners.
But I'm taking this job, even though I've seen how you've treated Julian Nagelsmann. I don't know the ins and outs. Raph will be able to tell us later.
Well, I don't think any worse than any other manager who gets.
He said, I've seen how you've treated Thomas Tuchel. If you go after my family, I'm gone. Maybe that's Jurgen Klopp already decided to leave. But I quite like the fact that Jurgen Klopp is sort of setting his stall out and saying, hold on a minute, there are standards. And again, Raph will tell us, but you cannot, there is a line here. And I do think that someone of his gravitas, you would like to think that some, if not most, of those reporters will be like, well,
he's absolutely entitled to do that, and it's a good idea from his point of view, but I just don't think it'll make any difference. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll get Raf's take on it.
Yeah, looking forward to speaking to Raph a little bit later on. You're listening to Hawksby and Jacobs, me, Max Scott, in Football Hawksby. We're on talkSPORT in partnership with Toolstation. Join the Toolstation Trade Club and get 10% off all electrical and lighting products when you buy cable and flexes. First stop, Toolstation. Next up, we're going to hear from Steve Bruce, get a little bit of England, Man United and Newcastle chat in early doors.
Jack Grealish.
Yep.
Also going to be back at Man City.
Yep.
Next season.
It'd be interesting to see what happens with Jack if he's given a chance by Maresca, because he would have been part of that Man City squad that Maresca was at. Or will the manager think, no? And will Jack think, you know what, maybe I want to move on? I think it's still early doors. I think we have to see what happens over the next 6 weeks. You know, still 6 weeks left of the transfer window. Start of September, it closes. I don't see him staying there. I see him moving on. It wouldn't surprise me if he moves somewhere else in Europe. I don't see him staying in the Premier League. So I think he's still got 1 year left, I think, of his contract. So the wages as well, will that be a problem for some of the clubs, maybe in the Premier League? But don't rule out maybe back to Everton. David Moyes loved him.
Yeah, he did well there.
Yeah, he done very well there.
He did well there. Okay, interesting. And then, of course, Rodri, reportedly waiting for Real Madrid president Florentino Perez to sanction his return to Spain. And then there's growing support for the move in the capital after he skippered them to the World Cup. Of course, as well, he's linked to Real Madrid. Do you see that one getting done?
It depends, because I did see that from Perez saying that it's not something that they want to do. And I don't think Manchester City are going to let him go on the cheap. I think before the World Cup, they maybe would have negotiated a deal. But his performances in the World Cup was the Rodri that won the Ballon d'Or a couple of seasons ago. That Rodri I wouldn't sell for anything less than 80, 90, 100 million if I'm Manchester City. He's that good. And he's...
Anthony Joshua is on the road to destiny. But first, there is danger. Prenga, 20 wins, 20 knockouts. And AJ knows, one moment, one mistake, one punch will change history. AJ is back. But there is danger before destiny.
Here we go, Andy. Things I didn't know.
Okay.
I'm 36, and only about 6 months ago, I realised that spag bowl was spaghetti bolognese. I always thought it was a spag bowl. and was different to a spaghetti dish. That's a brilliant one. That no name on that, but thank you.
Well, he's not going to admit it, is he? But it's good. We've all got these things.
A friend of mine, I'm not going to name names in the spirit of that, only realised yesterday that afternoon began at midday.
Really?
Yeah, they thought that the afternoon began at 1 p.m. I thought it was.
It does on talkSPORT, eh?
I thought for years it wasn't a food processor, but a food professor you needed to cook. Yeah, and then Tim from Oakley says, I only just found out that Peppa Pig isn't a fella.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I thought that'd be quite obvious, but Tim, we all make these mistakes. Keep your texts coming in 888.
I can't remember what Peppa wears.
No, I mean, again, I don't have children. I do have a puppy.
Well, I have seen Peppa Pig. Hold on, Peppa Pig. Let's see whether it's obvious.
But I thought with the name Peppa, it might be obvious.
Well, not necessarily from the name. No, you can't really tell. It's a bit of a unisex outfit. Well, it's a bit of a dress, isn't it? Really.
And
it'll be a long shirt.
Here's one for you on the topic of.
That's what you want to talk about on talkSPORT.
What does Peppa Pig wear? Last one. Did you know King Charles is a Burnley fan? He has his own royal seat. This is from Dave in the Isle of Man. Yeah, we've had a couple of texts saying that King Charles is a Burnley fan.
I didn't know that.
What an educational Friday afternoon here for us.
It's good.
Right, look, we're in that funny period, of course, where we're all dealing with the disappointment of the World Cup in our own ways, the dust settling slowly for some, quicker for others, and, of course, looking ahead to the Premier League. Now, we do, of course, have the Commonwealth Games coverage across the network. We'll be bringing you some updates every hour on that. But to reflect on England and then look ahead to the Premier League season, I'm delighted to say joining us now is former Manchester United defender, Newcastle manager Steve Bruce. Good afternoon, Steve.
Good afternoon. It's been rather riveting listening to you guys, I have to say.
Riveting.
Whoever thought that Peppa Pig was a bloke? That's a great one, I have to say.
Is there anything that you've only just realised recently, Steve? Anything off the top of your head?
I realise it's very early in the morning for me to get up in the Caribbean to come on your show.
That's very
well,
and I said yesterday, a producer, thinking, well, I've got to get up at 7 o'clock again. So here I am anyway. So I'm a bit blurry. I do apologise.
No, we appreciate it, Stephen. We appreciated your comments throughout the World Cup. Okay, well, look, we could get your sort of final reflections on what happened with England and the final itself and all that. I mean, just a quick view. Did you enjoy the tournament?
I think we all enjoyed the tournament, I have to say, but and you could argue that the best team won it. I mean, when you look at the statistics, they never conceded a goal. I mean, 10 shots in something like 8 games. I'm just looking at the defensive side of Spain. But then you could argue that they really were, well, they didn't have to defend because they always had the ball, it seemed. So that's the way the Spanish play. You have to say for the last 20 years or so now, they've been, the most dominant team around. They are the team to beat, and especially the way they play, in hot conditions, especially in a World Cup in the summer, they keep the ball and make sure that they run the other team into the ground. I mean, really, Argentina never had a kick, and that's testament to how good Spain were.
Steve, you've played at the highest level. You've played under arguably the greatest in Sir Alex. I'm really intrigued as to what, and of course you've managed yourself right at the top of the game. I wonder what you've made of the tone of Thomas Tuchel's comments, whether it's telling talkSPORT he had no regrets about what happened in that semi-final, or whether, for my money anyway, sort of using this idea that it's not in English football DNA to keep the ball. That was a cop-out for me. What did you make of those comments? And do you think that's something Sir Alex would ever have done, is essentially refuse to take any responsibility for a negative performance?
Well, I think when you reflect on anything, when you're a manager and you get judged really on your big decisions and what you do, and usually the big ones don't get it very wrong. And I think we're all in agreement, and maybe Thomas, looking back on it, will reflect and think, did I make that call too quickly? But look, we were 5 minutes away. We were 1-0 up with 5 minutes to go in normal time. I think we all knew there was going to be another 10 minutes. So he could quite argue that he nearly got it right. And let's not forget, I know Mexico's a bit different because we're 10 men. Against Norway, we did exactly the same thing. So, in the previous 2 games, let's put it right. We defended very, very well. But even when he made the substitutions and we had all these defenders on the pitch, it always seemed to be when the crosses were coming in, that the red shirt was on, on hand to be on the end of it. So I think when he reflects on it, you'll think, did I make the call too soon? I read that stat the other day that when England scored in the 62nd minute, for the next 35 minutes, we only had 12% possession.
Yeah.
I mean, for a team like England, that is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, so, I think in reflection, well, we'll all live with it because, we were so close. But as I have to say, the Spanish and the way they play were worthy champions.
I think that's fair enough, really. So now we're coming on to the back to the Premier League. We're right in the middle of the transfer season, a busy time for managers, as you'll know.
Yeah.
We should talk a bit about your old club, United, because they're basically completely rebuilding their midfield, aren't they? And it's going to be interesting to see who they end up with and how it goes. I mean, Tielemans, though, that's got to be a good signing, I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, he's proven in the Premier League, isn't he, over the last few years? And I think that's what they've done over the last couple of transfers. Anyway, they've took people from the Premier League, and that's paid dividends. So, like Cunha has done very, very well. So, yeah, they've had to revamp their midfield area, of course, with the loss of Casemiro. So, yeah, very interesting. They look very, very good signings on paper. Let's hope they can adapt to playing for Man U. It's going to be a big season, of course, and we're all rooting behind Michael. I'm delighted that he got the job and the opportunity because, let's be fair, he did a wonderful job. However, it's going to be a little bit different this year. They've got to tackle Europe. Now, all of a sudden, they've got, more games and, you're playing more on a Saturday, Tuesday. I think last season was the least games Man United have ever played in a season. I think they only played 40 games. They got knocked out in both cup competitions, weren't in Europe. So, you're going to have to adapt and need a bigger, fitter, healthier squad. But they're making the right signs, and I don't think they're finished today of what they've done.
Steve, I'm interested in your sort of thoughts on Marcus Rashford, because sadly for him, even though he had a really good stint at Barcelona, they've opted for Anthony Gordon. I think his wages getting increased because of Manchester United's qualification for the Champions League hasn't actually helped him because Barcelona can't really afford that. Is Michael Carrick a kind of bridge for reconciliation between Marcus Rashford and Manchester United? Because and do you see a world where he plays for United next season?
Well, look, he's contracted to them. And if he has to go back to Manchester, then Michael's the right one to try and get the best out of him. It's no secret that he had a fallout with the previous manager, and that was not going to succeed. But we've seen a lot of Rashford in the World Cup to say he's an asset for any team to have. If you can get him turned round and put the differences aside, the kid's a top player. And yes, he's had some difficulties or whatever, but we've seen last year with Barcelona, we've just seen glimpses of it now with England in the World Cup. The kid's a really, really outstanding footballer. So if anybody can get him back in the fold, I think Michael, the way his demeanour is, the way Michael is as a character, will ensure that Rashford could come back and quite rightly play for Man United. Why not? I mean, it's going to take a really big signing to replace him for a start, because as I said, he's a top player. And if he's happy in the environment, happy to come back in to the fold, then I'm sure Michael's the right man to get him up and running again.
Yeah, I'd imagine he'd want him if Rashford actually wants him, I'm sure. Because he's
absolutely,
he's a good player. Are you concerned about Newcastle, though? They've lost Tonali, they've lost Gordon. It looks like they're going to lose Guimaraes. That's three big players for them. And they've signed players, but, that'll take some replacing, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely right there. I mean, they've been the outstanding performers for Newcastle over the last couple of years in particular. Those three to take out your team are practically irreplaceable. I mean, you're selling them all for 100 million each, so it's very, very difficult. They must be in a really difficult position, Newcastle. A bit like Aston Villa. I keep saying the same thing. When I was managing Newcastle, I think the turnover of the club was something like 130 million, 135 million. Now it's somewhere up at to where 300 million is the turnover. However, when you compare that to a Manchester United or a Manchester City or an Arsenal or a Chelsea, they're up at 6, 7, 800 million turnover. And that's the problem with a financial fair play and what happens. But to lose your big three players must be a blow, and obviously they're going to go down a different direction, it looks like.
I can't help but feel that the financial regulations in the Premier League really kill the ambition of big clubs like Newcastle, like Aston Villa.
Forest.
Well, like Forest, because the revenue streams just aren't there yet. And it seems unfair that they've been brought in at this arbitrary time in football in history where you've already got these established clubs like Chelsea and City who've been able to become the sort of trophy-winning clubs that they are because there were no regulations at the time. And so I do feel for Newcastle, and I have done, I always do. However, I thought Darren McAnthony made a really good point yesterday when he was on with Alex Crook. Peterborough owner said, ultimately, look at what happened to Bournemouth last season. At the end of last season, they had their entire defence stripped and their recruitment sorted it out, and now they're in Europe. And so is there an argument to say, Steve, that, you know, if Newcastle can get their recruitment right this summer, then it shouldn't be such a cause for concern, and maybe there should be some optimism around the city?
Well, I get it. And the reason why Bournemouth have been so successful is their recruitment over the years has been absolutely magnificent. Now, the thing is about Bournemouth, can they sustain it? Can they mount a challenge in Europe? They've done fantastically well, as you say, to sell all them defenders for a lot of money in replacing them. However, can you keep doing that? I'm not so sure you can. I'm delighted that they have done it, and they've shown a way. Them, Brighton, Bournemouth, Brighton, they've all done fantastically well. Brentford's another one who've done, who've bought well, sold well. But that's the way they're going to run their football club. When you are wanting to be in the Champions League final or winning a Premier League or, you know, playing in Europe every year, then it's a different scenario. So, yes, you could say 20 years ago Chelsea were in the same boat when there was no restrictions, and look what they built. And same one goes for Manchester City. So you do feel sorry for these teams, but they are the rules, and that's why it must be very difficult for any club to really try and compete with the big boys who are already in there.
Yeah, well said, Steve. Look, Steve, thank you so much for your time during this World Cup. We've really enjoyed hearing your thoughts and reflections on it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolute
Thank you.
Pleasure. That's former Manchester United legend, Steve Bruce, former Newcastle manager, giving us his thoughts on the World Cup and as well looking ahead to this season. Stick with us, though, because, of course, the big breaking news in the world of football today is that Jurgen Klopp is back in the dugout. It's for the German national team. We'll be speaking to Ralf Honigstein about all that.
If it is true, that is the one for Tottenham, the one that got away. If you think about what Abramovich did to Chelsea, did to Premier League football, did to world football, he was a benefactor.
He turned you into a
monster. Yeah, he turned us into a monster.
Yeah, he did, because he wasn't a big club before him. It was an average size club.
I mean, we certainly, if you want to do this, which I don't suggest you should, but if you want to do this, in the 10 years prior to Abramovich, Chelsea won more than you've won in the Premier League era.
Up the shells.
In the 10 years...
Honestly, you and Cundy,
in the 10 years, because you can't let it go. You say one thing and I just...
One thing, I literally just said one thing and that was it. Bang, I got the fishing rod out.
Yeah. In the 10 years prior to...
big one.
You have. In the 10 years prior to Abramovich taking over Chelsea, so just go the 10 years prior to that, Chelsea won more than Tottenham have in the entire Premier League era. So you want to... when... You know that run?
Did you win the Cup Winners' Cup?
We won. We did win the Cup Winners' Cup. Yeah. Yes, we did.
Good trophy.
We did win the Cup Winners' Cup. Yes, we did.
We won the Audi Cup.
We won the FA Cup. We won the League Cup. We won the Super Cup, beating Real Madrid in Monaco. Gus Poyet scoring the winner. We didn't lose to Tottenham at home for 27 years. A lot of that record obviously stretched into into that pre-Abramovich.
Anthony Joshua is on the road to destiny. But first, there is danger. Prenga, 20 wins, 20 knockouts. And AJ knows, one moment, one mistake, one punch will change history. AJ is back. But there is danger before destiny.
Good afternoon, this is Hawksby and Jacobs with me. Max Scott in for Paul, who's enjoying some time off. And Andy asked you earlier, things that you didn't realise, and the texts have been lighting up. We got one earlier about, spag bowl. A few people didn't know that it was short for spaghetti bolognese. They just thought it was a bowl of spaghetti. And Nick the Hammer's texting saying he's part of that club.
It's worth not knowing Gil Scott-Heron's dad played for Celtic, I'd say.
Dino from Rushton says, I was this many days old when I realised while watching the World Cup that you do not testiculate to the referee, you gesticulate. That's a good one.
Yeah, very good.
Connor says, I had a mate that thought the different colour cat milks were different aged cows.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good.
Fair enough.
No.
I cannot have anything but blue milk. And the office, well, I tell a lie. I drink it at the office. We've got green milk at the office.
You mean the top?
Yeah, the top, yeah. Well, not actual green milk.
Is blue full fat?
Full fat milk.
Yeah, no, me too.
And then
it's healthier in the end.
What full fat is?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. And then
so they say. I'm not a doctor.
This is a good fact. The last.
Just thought I'd put that in, just in case you thought I
could get fact checked. Just learned the last defender Michael Owen went past to score that goal was Maurizio Pochettino.
Oh, I knew that.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't matter because he didn't know that. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's things you didn't realise, not things that we all realise that. I mean, there'll be loads of people who did know that Gil Scott-Heron's dad played.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll keep your texts coming in 8, 10, 80 now. We'll read through those throughout the afternoon. But of course, the big news today is that Jurgen Klopp has become the new manager of the German national team. It's no big surprise, but he has, of course, been speaking to the media. And in that press conference, these are his words. I do not do this job for myself. I'm doing it for you. Well, thank you, Jurgen. I'm taking this job even though I've seen how you've treated Julian Nagelsmann. I'm taking it even though I've seen how you've treated Thomas Tuchel. If you go after my family, I'm gone. If you think I'm rubbish, tell me to my face and I'll leave immediately. without asking for any compensation. Bit of the Ruben Amorim about him there.
Yeah, I think the family stuff's perfectly acceptable. I agree with him on that. But the other thing, if you tell me I'm rubbish, well, if you are rubbish and the team have been poor, does that mean you'll leave? Is that it? I mean, because they won't play well in every single game, and the press won't be happy about it. But anyway, let's find out from somebody who will be speaking to Jurgen.
Well, Raf Honigstein is with us. Raf, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us, mate. And what do you think, and what's the reaction been in Germany to these quite forthright comments from Jurgen Klopp?
Yeah, it was quite combative opening to his press conference. He did go on to talk about a lot of different stuff in much more measured tone, but that was the first answer, and that's been the most widely reported one. I think it was meant as a warning shot. He clearly doesn't want to be subjected to the kind of off-pitch scrutiny that Nagelsmann had. There's a lot of headlines about his wife and what the wife didn't do and did do, and how they went on a holiday and how she was on a bicycle and all this kind of stuff. And he used that to tell people, I'm not going to stand for it. But it then moved into a much more sort of footballing conversation, and he had a lot of interesting things to say. And those few lines haven't really echoed that much in Germany. No one's really picked up to the same extent, because a lot of people saw the full press conference, and that was just one part of it.
Wasn't he critical, though, of Nagelsmann himself when he's standing on the pitch in the World Cup?
Yeah, he was very critical. I think the line that he's drawn is you can say stuff critical of me and of the football, but please don't go after my wife, and don't talk about what my sons do and this kind of stuff. And that's, I think, something he wanted to point out, because the scrutiny, as he knows, is going to be much bigger. When he was at Dortmund, he was a big star, but it was only Dortmund, a fairly small place with a fairly docile media. When he was at Liverpool, the Liverpool media were supportive of Liverpool largely, and kind of left him alone. Now it's going to be very different. Now it's going to be 82 German national team managers looking for flaws on and off the pitch, and it's going to be demand for this kind of stuff. And he felt he had to put in the reducer early, as we say, before things have even happened.
Raf, I mean, we'll get on to the other parts of the press conference and what we can expect from Klopp, but I just want to say just one thing. If you go after my family, I'm gone. I like that. I think it's really good to set your stall out and remind the press of the standards that they should carry themselves with and that you expect from them, because it is there is a relationship that managers build up with the media, and so I like that. But he did say, if you think I'm rubbish, tell me to my face and I'll leave immediately. Well, quite frankly, that's not going to happen, because we live in a world where everybody has an opinion, and football fans and the media have a right to share that. So is it the case? Is there a genuine fear that when inevitably there's a poor performance and he and his players are criticised, that he's going to throw his toys out the pram?
I don't think so. He qualified that later on. He said a couple of sentences later, of course, it'll come down to the German faith. They also agree that I'm rubbish, then I'll walk. So I think that line was a little bit sort of off the cuff. Yeah. And I think he then rode back a little bit a couple of sentences later. But there was a lot of talk about the press having, in his view, if not to support, then at least to sort of be fair and be a bit patient in their assessment. He really appealed to them being part of German football and doing their bit as much as they can to help this rejuvenation. Now, I don't have to remind you, and we all know this, that the press's role is not to be cheerleaders. But I think he really felt that sort of bit of positivity and at least sort of a bit of patience to begin with was warranted. And he spoke a lot about that, because Klopp, as you know from his Liverpool days, is someone who feeds off the wider energies, not just the players. It's not just the crowd in the stadium. It's the wider fans, it's the wider supporters, it's the city. And in this case, it could be the whole country. And he's working very hard, even he hasn't really started, to try to bring the whole country together. And he felt that he wanted to remind the press, as it were, that they can play a role in that.
How much work has he got to turn this team round? Because it was another disappointing World Cup. I didn't think they were that bad, really. You probably don't share that view. But how easy will it be for him to turn this team back into what we expect a German team to be at a World Cup?
I don't think this is a terrible team. I think this is a team that has talents, that has players at the highest level in the Premier League, that has proven winners, players from Bayern, players from Real Madrid. I don't think it needs a miracle to be competitive with this team. And this team, even at the World Cup, could have been competitive. Could they have beaten France in the last 16? Probably not. But should they have beaten Paraguay? Yes, absolutely. So Klopp made the point. There's a lot of quality in German football. He spoke of 57 names that he's got put down that he thinks are viable candidates. That's not bad. They might not be superstars. They might not be Kylian Mbappe and Haaland and Kane. But then most countries don't have these players either, and they find a way to get the most out of what they have. And Klopp will. Where it's going to be a bit more difficult, I think, is to instill his particular style, because we don't have necessarily the players that thrived in his Liverpool system. We don't have wingers. We don't have flying fullbacks. We don't have number 8s that run up and down the pitch the whole 90 minutes. So he will have to adjust a little bit, or go back to the drawing board, as it were, and pick young players who perhaps haven't quite reached that standard yet in the younger age groups, and trust them to develop into these players. So that's this biggest challenge, if you will.
Interesting. Because it's become the new buzz phrase, particularly here in England, footballing DNA. What is German football DNA? I mean, if
winning
for the Spanish and the Brazilians, it's possession or tiki-taka. For the Italians, it's sort of building from the back and having a solid defence. In its purest form, what is German football in DNA?
It's a big debate at the moment what that is, because, of course, our DNA changed massively in the last 25 years. We used to be a team that relied on fighting, on running, on tackling, and having sort of big characters and winners, people that got you over the line without necessarily playing good football. And then things changed, and we won the World Cup. A very technical side with Kroos, with Özil, with a very good Schweinsteiger, very good Philipp Lahm. And we had different type of player there, really. And now there is this tug of war almost. There's a kind of a cultural battle between those who say we have to go back to the old Germanic virtues, and we can't be influenced by Spain and so on, and the others who are saying, no, it's the opposite is true. When we were very much influenced and tried to play a possession game, that's when we are at our most successful. Now, Klopp is not a possession type coach, even though, of course, his team had to adjust and they became a lot more balanced and a lot more refined, necessarily because most teams didn't give them the space to play on the break. They had to find ways in possession against defensive formations that made it very difficult, and they found ways. So he's no longer that type of manager, even in the purest form. But his natural ideal, if you will, is not really the Spanish possession type. It's a more sort of up and at them, helter-skelter rock and roll style. But do we have the players for it? As we said in the previous question, I'm not quite sure we have them at the moment.
Raf, thanks so much for joining us, mate. It's been fascinating. Thank you.
Anytime.
That's friend of the show,
yeah,
German football expert Raf Honigstein. I like the fact that, there's an element of confidence there. I think we're so wrapped up in domestic football with this idea of a rebuild. Because it took so long at Arsenal, for example. I think we project that onto every club or every nation that changes manager. And Raf's absolutely right. There's some top quality players in there.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
So I'm kind of quaking in my boots for the Euros because you've got Klopp, De La Fuente, Zidane's going to be at France. So Tuchel's got a tough old job. I mean, he has a tough old job anyway, but to go and win the Euros with Klopp in there is going to be difficult.
True.
Right, let's now get our first update from the Commonwealth Games with good friend John Cushing.
Thanks, Max. Adam Ramsey, PT, telling me that he waited 15 minutes before his first race was like going for an MOT and then taking 5 hours. But job done for the four-time Commonwealth Games gold medalist winning the 100-metre breaststroke heats. He qualifies in the fastest time for the semi-finals tonight, 59.46 at the Tollcross International Swimming Centre. Australia dominated the men and women's 4x1 relay heat, swimming fastest in both England and Scotland, also both into the finals for them this evening. Duncan Scott and Tom Dean are into the final of the men's 200 metres individual medley tonight. Duncan Scott, the reigning champion. Now, powerlifting will see the first medal awarded at these games in the next hour. Mark Swan from England, a big hope in the lightweight category at the Armadillo on the banks of the Clyde here in Glasgow. Wins for Scotland men in the 3x3 basketball this morning, 21-14 against Guyana. 2 more matches to come here on day one. Ellis Trowbridge knocked out his opponent twice as he won his first round in the bantamweight match in the boxing. The referee had to stop it in the end. Lauren Mackey He also won for Team England. And Northern Ireland's flag and baton carrier Gary Kelly won his bowls men's singles this morning, 2-0. Quite the start for the games for him. He's had 2 wins and he's carried the flag. This is Glasgow 2026 Commonwealth Games, and it's live on talkSPORT.
Commonwealth Games update on talkSPORT with the BYD Atto 2 DMI, the intelligent compact SUV with advanced plug-in hybrid technology.
Yeah, thank you, John. That's John Cushing. Michael Wadop bringing us the updates throughout the day. A reminder, 7 p.m. till 10, we got a kick-off special, Commonwealth Games special with Natalie Sawyer and Greg Rutherford. Greg was in the studio, myself and Charlie yesterday. Great bloke. It'll be a great listen as well. But stay with us here on Hawksbee and Jacobs, because up next we're going to preview some big boxing happening this weekend.
What do you make of the transfers? And also, Madison's back. You know, maybe Kulusevski coming back as well. You got some key players back as well.
I'm excited. I really am. It's going to be interesting to see what he does with the team. It looks like he's got some real kind of men in. You know, like with Tonali and Robertson, people who are going to, like leaders on the pitch. I think that's what we needed. You know, it seems to me like he's going for a type of side who are going to have some energy in the middle of the park. With a bit of experience and kind of like a bit. I want to see a bit more like housery from us, do you know, like a bit like Arsenal have done. Yeah, you know, a bit more like know how to win, and because we've been a soft touch. We've played some decent games, but then like we'll throw away goals and points at the end of the game.
And it's time to embrace playing in that outstanding stadium. Yeah, getting a home crowd on side. Don't fear playing there like they have done for 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Like embrace it and make it a fortress.
Yeah, I'm happy with what we've done so far. We've still got to figure out what we're going to do on the left. Like the left wing for me is an issue. Who's going to play out there? No, we don't want Garnacho.
You want to take over?
You take Garnacho, mate. He's a good player. Take Garnacho.
He's good. You have him.
Oh, I think he's a good player, mate.
Why didn't you outbid us? Outbid us, mate.
I think that if we sort left wing out and maybe look.
Anthony Joshua is on the road to destiny. But first, there is danger. Prenga, 20 wins, 20 knockouts. And AJ knows, one moment, one mistake, one punch will change history. AJ is back. But there is danger before destiny.
Big fight build-up on talkSPORT with DAZN. Anthony Joshua's comeback starts this Saturday as he faces Christian Prenga. Watch only on DAZN Saturday Fight Night.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here on Hawksbee and Jacobs. Me, Max Scott, alongside Andy Jacobs. We're on the wind down. We've got some nice holiday plans next week, but we're building up now to a consequential weekend of boxing, let's say that, because both Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are in action. And of course, we need them both to win so that they can fight each other. And it better well be on British soil, if you ask me. There's been talk that it could be held in America or Saudi Arabia. Absolutely not.
Yeah, the trouble is the time at the start. If it's held in Britain, it has to go out at 2:00 in the morning. That's the ring walk time. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, hopefully Sadiq Khan can sort of loosen some rules, get the underground working early into the early hours of the morning so that can happen. Well, for more on this, let's now chat to Wally Downs Jr., who's the Sun's boxing reporter, out, I believe, Wally, in Jeddah. Is that where you are?
Yes, I didn't get the Thailand gig, sadly.
So, because last I heard, Wally, you were going on the hunt for Tyson Fury to find out a little bit more about this fight he's got against Marius Wag.
No, a week in Pattaya would have been far more enjoyable. But AJ's comeback is the real fight, and there's also two Englishmen defending their world titles out here. So sadly, the dry desert of Jeddah is the place to be, and while Gareth A. Davis is 4,000 miles away, it's even better.
do these two have to both win to keep the Fury AJ thing going, or would it not matter if one of them loses or they both lose?
Short term, it would matter. Commercially, it'd be a total and utter disaster. Long term, I think they're still going to fight, whatever happens, which I think is probably one of the problems with this, that no matter what they do, what they say, how badly they look, how many warm-up fights they take, they know that it's always going to be on the back burner. They know that 2 million people in the UK probably want to watch it. So that's probably something that's counted against them, and the reason it's not happened earlier. But listen, neither of these two fellas are going to lose over the weekend.
Well, talk to us about AJ, because of course we've been following him on talkSPORT in his camp. He seems to have been spending a lot of time with Alexander Usyk, who's kind of taking him under his wing a little bit, which I think in a really dark time in AJ's life recently, that can only be a good thing for him.
Yeah, I think once AJ split from Rob McCracken, who was a proper mentor, who he used to call the general, and his Alex Ferguson, there was some really lost years where he had a couple of trainers that weren't right for him. He went to a couple of trainers in America who were great for their fighters, but they didn't work for AJ. He went and tried a couple more recently. He went to Canelo's gym. It didn't quite click. He went to Usyk, I think, in December for a 2-week trial, and he's never come back or come home. It takes great humility to go and train alongside against someone that's completely outdone you twice. If you remember that second fight that's in this same venue, the Jeddah Superdome, AJ threw a tantrum in the ring that was, a bit tense, but afterwards he broke down and cried in that press conference because he'd felt wrongly that he'd let the whole nation down. So to go over there and give himself to Usyk and his team shows probably how much he wants to bring the curtain down on his career in the best way possible.
On that, how much, because obviously AJ physically is so different to Usyk in terms of the attributes that have made AJ heavyweight champion are so far away on the spectrum to Usyk. How much do you think AJ can actually learn and implement from Usyk, who's such a different fighter?
I don't think a great deal. He's not going to suddenly turn into a slick southpaw mover, and I think that's probably the problem, that in the years that AJ left Rob McCracken, although he wanted to become a better technical boxer, he didn't pick up a pair of gloves till he was 18. Yeah. It's not Tyson Fury, who's been doing it since he was 9, who has been able to change his style. AJ is an explosive 3-punch knockout artist, and hopefully Alexander Usyk and his team will take him back to being that. But certainly Usyk's conditioning, Anthony Joshua talked about it in the build-up to this. If you look at Usyk's conditioning, it's incredible. He even when he's in close fights, he pulls away in those championship rounds 10, 11, 12, and that's probably where Joshua has struggled. So if he can just add 10% to what Anthony Joshua already has, and also you're absolutely right, the psychological trauma of what he's gone through since December, I think that being out of the UK, away from the gyms that he would so associate with his two friends, I'm not saying it would help, but certainly it would not be as sort of torturous as being around those places are that he was with Lapson Sinner for most of his career.
Is it right the Fury fight is not on TV anywhere?
Yeah, no, it's a TV episode. It's an exercise in filming it for Netflix. Netflix will have filmed him all in the build-up. They'll film this dance around in Pattaya. They will film him walking out the dressing room and getting straight onto a jet, flying to Jeddah, and probably sitting ringside and annoying AJ for 12 rounds or however long the Prenga fight lasts. It's it's a PR exercise. It's a bit of fun.
I've seen it online. The Sun are exclusively reporting that they've been told by Tyson Fury 2026 is the final year of his fighting career. I'm sure that they've been. Well, that's it. I'm sure he has told the Sun that. But how much do you really believe that, Wally?
I'll be retired before Tyson is. In April, when he signed to fight Makhmudov, He said that was a 3-fight deal, and there is no way that this Maris-Vac fight will be part of that. So he owes Saudi 2 fights, probably both against AJ. He can't tell us, with quite a bit of sincerity that he needs the sport and he loves the sport, and without it, he lacks dedication and commitment, and then say he's going to retire this year. So I believe he'll fight Anthony Joshua at least twice, and then he'll probably hang around and take on people, maybe not Moses Atama, but certainly like a Daniel Dubois. He's incredibly money hungry, and if people are still offering money for him to fight in the same way they tragically are with Joe Joyce at the moment, he will. I believe he will hang around and fight for as long as people pay him to, as is his right, as is he's earned.
Sure, absolutely. Wow. Okay.
Just finally from me, Wally, because I really want to know, and I know my mates and fight fans want to know, how likely it is that, obviously, should AJ and Fury come through their respective fights this weekend, how likely is it that that fight we've been waiting for happens on British soil?
Well, one lives in Dubai, one lives in the Isle of Man. It's being backed by Saudi Arabia. This isn't the all-British clash that it really once was. The strange thing about them being so desperate to appeal to a US audience is I don't think either guy is a big draw in America. No. Anthony Joshua has boxed there once and got wiped out by Ruiz, and he never boxed Wilder. Fury hasn't boxed there for an awful long time. And America as a whole country doesn't care for boxing anymore in the same way that we do. So if they want to doctor and maneuver a UK fight, but on a US time zone, I don't really see the benefits. I know they want to maximize their appeal to Netflix, which is obviously a big US company, but I don't see, this was always going to be a fight that 2 million people paid Sky Sports 20 quid pay-per-view for. Putting it on at a strange time just to suit probably a couple of 100,000 Americans. It seems strange to me. I think it will happen. I've got a horrible feeling it happens in America because they're convinced that UK fans will travel in the same way they did for Ricky Hatton. But these two fellas, at this stage of their career, no matter how great they have been for the sport, they aren't Ricky Hatton, and I don't believe they have the travelling support at this stage of their career that Ricky did.
Yeah, well, we'll look keenly and see how that plays out. Wally, thank you so much for joining us, mate. Absolute pleasure.
Cheers, fellas. Have a good day.
Yeah, that's the Sun's Boxing Report.
British fans, they love travelling. They love doing this.
But I just wonder, Andy, after, if British sports fans are maybe a bit sick of travelling to America after this summer and the inordinate amounts of money that they've been forced to pay watching
the tickets
football.
wouldn't be cheap for the fight, would they?
Absolutely not. I think that'd be a crying shame if it...
No, it'd be much better if it was at Wembley. Of course it would.
It would. Well, that was a look ahead to all the action for this weekend's boxing, all thanks to DAZN.
Big fight build-up on talkSPORT with DAZN. This Saturday, it's danger before destiny for Anthony Joshua. Joshua versus Prenga, live exclusively on DAZN.
You're listening to Hawksby and Jacobs on talkSPORT in partnership with Toolstation. First stop, Toolstation.
Obviously, you've got Kai Havertz, who was missing for most of last season. He's back and available and can play either as your centre forward or off your centre forward, which again shows a little bit more congestion in that kind of attacking midfield role. So I think when you zoom out, bigger picture, the squad still has enough. It has a lot of depth, but I think the reason there's a bit of nervousness around the Arsenal fan base right now is because we see an opportunity. We win the league for the first time in 22 years. Manchester City have lost Pep Guardiola. He's moved on. Maresca's a great coach, but is he Pep Guardiola? I'm not sure he is. In fact, I'm certain he's not. You look at Liverpool, new coach starting the project again. Chelsea under Alonso. Really good coach, but they're going to need time. Man United are not quite there yet. There's an opportunity for Arsenal to not just consolidate, but to take another step and dominate for a period of time. And I think that's why there's a nervousness around this transfer window. Last year, it was about, can we do the business to get us over the line? We've done that. Now it's about, can we do the business
Champions League?
Yeah, to consolidate our position and to dominate. And I think that's why people are quite anxious at the minute.
See, why can't all Arsenal fans be like Harry? You know,
not
yeah, don't be like Piers Morgan, Joel Bayer, Troops, all these prats that ruin it for the good Arsenal fans. I love speaking to you, Harry. Proper Arsenal fan.
Good on you, Harry.
Thank you very much, mate. But listen, every Arsenal fan's got their view, and you know, we're a passionate bunch.
Even that,
and sometimes...
you should be a politician.
No, mate,
with that.
no. Harry, we want to speak to you only, mate. The others are idiots.
Good afternoon, you're listening to Hawksby and Jacobs. Me, Max Scott, in for Paul Hawksby. We've got loads to come this hour. Angelina Kelly's going to come in and join us about her travels across America, give us a bit of an update on Manchester United and, of course, the latest transfer news from the WSL. Jamie Jackson, our Manchester correspondent, is going to be bringing us the latest from Enzo Maresca's first press conference. Interesting comments from him. All that to come after Nick Ellaby in the afternoon, might I add. Not early doors, Nick Ellaby. Afternoon, Nick Ellaby with your sporting headlines.
Talk Sport.
Thanks, Max. Good afternoon. Day one in the Germany job, and Jurgen Klopp's told the public and media, go after my family and I'll quit. That's after seeing how Julian Nagelsmann was treated. German football expert Rafa Honigstein told Scott and Jacobs Klopp was reminding the German press about their role in the national team's rejuvenation.
The press's role is not to be cheerleaders, but I think he really felt that sort of bit of positivity and at least sort of a bit of patience to begin with was warranted.
Klopp signed a 4-year deal with the German national team. All this is reported Pep Guardiola said no to the Italy job for family reasons. Now, who won this year's AFCON really? Well, that will be thrashed out at the Court of Arbitration for Sport in October. Senegal won March's final, but following a walkout over refereeing decisions, CAF then awarded the trophy to Morocco. The saga continues. Transfers, we're told Spurs captain Christian Romero's had talks with Inter over a possible move to Serie A. Daisen Maeda's completed his Ipswich medical after a £10 million move from Celtic. And could the returning Marcus Rashford feel like a new signing for Man United this season?
The kid's a really, really outstanding footballer. So if anybody can get him back in the fold, I think Michael, the way his demeanour is, the way Michael is as a character, will ensure that Rashford could come back and quite rightly play for Man United. Why not?
Former captain Steve Bruce says Rashford proved his worth at the World Cup. We understand Joe Root will take over the England Test captaincy as interim. Root could be captain until next summer's Ashes. And at the Commonwealth Games, despite kicking off over a delay, Adam Ramsey-Peaty safely through to the 100-metre breaststroke semi-final. talkSPORT's live coverage continues tonight from 7 p.m.
Talk Sport News.
The Southport killer's been accused of manipulating the system over his transfer to a secure hospital, and police have found a car bomb near the border with Northern Ireland. More with Emma at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Today it's raining tyres in our centres, including top-notch brands like Pirelli. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
England and Wales dry with plenty of sunshine, feeling warm in the southeast. Northern Ireland and Scotland, though, cloudier with patchy rain.
Sure to grab a pint of So Good Lager from talkSPORT, and meantime it's available in all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports bars across the country. Find out where your nearest pub is at talksport.com/so good. 18 plus, always drink responsibly. A couple of good texts. This is probably the best text topic I've had in a while, actually, from you. Well, from anyone, Andy. On things that you didn't realise. Ash from Chester says, I used to think that a chest of drawers were Chester drawers. That's a good one. We've got no. Oh, Matthew says
There must be somebody called Chester Draws. I bet there is.
Is Draws a common surname? Have you ever met someone with a surname Draws? There's probably someone out there.
Yes, if you look it up, I'll Google it.
All right, do it. In the meantime, Matthew says, I'm a Tottenham fan. Recently, I was talking to a friend who doesn't know anything about football, and she asked me when we'd next be playing Spurs. So we like that.
Yeah.
And then I've got some advice from Jason in Christchurch. If that's Christchurch, as in on the south coast, not in New Zealand, lovely part of the world. I lived in Bournemouth for 8 years. Absolutely gorgeous is Christchurch, and he's essentially telling me that because of my lovely puppy Goose, who's been peeing on the carpet on the rug, that I need to get a new one. Well, Jason, I can't afford a new one, and it's a lovely piece of furniture, so we're going to keep it.
Okay. There's nobody called Chester Draws. We did find a woman called Marge Gaines at one point.
Did she work in cycling?
I don't know.
Is she working on the Commonwealth Games coverage? Is she a special guest tonight with Natalie Sawyer and Greg Rutherford? Who knows? Andy, how are you feeling about Chelsea? We've, you've rightly been quite indignant about what's going on in terms of Blueco and the absolute circus that it's been. But I've got to say, as an impartial, observer, whether it's getting Xabi Alonso, I think an unbelievable coup. How he is in Liverpool,
very good, yeah.
And you've made some top signings.
Absolutely,
Morgan Rogers. I think we've spoken since he signed. Surely, with no European football.
Yeah,
top four's really on the cards.
Oh, I don't know. You have to look at Chelsea's form in the second half of the season. They were the worst team in the Premier League from January to the end of the season. So to go from that to being top four, I think that's optimistic. Let's see how he does. Let's see how the players bed in. It's still a bit of an unbalanced squad. I mean, obviously Morgan Rogers is an upgrade on Garnacho. I can't believe, honestly, we can't know Chelsea fan can believe Villa have taken them. I mean, maybe look, Unai Emery is a brilliant manager and he gets the best out of players, and maybe he can turn Garnacho around. But I was optimistic when he came to Chelsea. I thought, that's a good signing. I like him. And Gabby Agbonahor says to me he won't be any good at Chelsea, so I don't imagine he's...
I kind of think, look, I totally get the ire directed at Alejandro Garnacho. His attitude has stank at times, and he's had that aura of somebody that is too big for his boots. He's only 22 years old.
And then he gets booed everywhere he goes as well. That doesn't help the team.
Having said that, though, I do think that we can reserve judgment a little bit because he's so young. And if, as some reports are to be believed, that he's acknowledged that about himself, and he's going to play for an absolutely top-class manager in Unai Emery, that this could turn out to be a really good signing. I kind of think we are... It's a bit like Gyökeres last season. After 3 games, Gyökeres is the worst signing in Premier League history, and he's only gone and scored 20 goals across all competitions, which isn't bad for someone.
And yet there had been talk of them getting rid of him and bringing in Alvarez and doing some sort of swap deal. So I tell you what is difficult. It's difficult to evaluate how your club's doing until it's over, until the transfer window is over. I mean, some clubs... Spurs look like they've done some good business. Chelsea have done some good business. Have you had a YouTube look at Xavier Schlager?
Yeah, Schlager, so good Schlager. I have, of course, I've watched the highlight reel, but for me, I saw Anthony's highlight reel before he went to Manchester United.
Any highlight reel.
So highlight reels are a bit deceiving, but he just looks like a strong bloke. His legs are massive, his neck's massive, his arms are massive, but he also, from his highlight reel, has got a bit of the Elliot Andersons about him in terms of his movement in tight spaces. And look, I think the Forest as a club acknowledge that you're not going to get a like-for-like replacement from Elliot Anderson. And while some of the commentary has been absurd from Piers Morgan about Elliot Anderson being a dud, he's a wonderful football player.
Oh, he's a great player.
And I thought he was pretty consistent at the World Cup in a team that weren't playing flashy stuff.
So I think some of the games he was England's best player.
Well, of course he was. And
mind you, honestly, Piers Morgan's a brilliant bloke, but honestly, what he knows about football, he could write on the back of a postage stamp.
Yeah, exactly.
In my view.
So I think Schlager, and he's a player that Oliver Glasner has been after for a long time, and I think that it's great for the relationship, the growing relationship between Glasner and Marinakis, that Marinakis has gone and got someone that he's been after for a while. And hopefully Ousmane Diomande, highly rated centre-back from Sporting, is on the way as well. And I think that's a great start to Glasner's career, having been very critical of Steve Parish and that ultimately being the reason that he left Crystal Palace, that he didn't get the players that he wanted.
But Glasner, he's you have to admire him to take the Forest job. With that, he's so impatient that if it doesn't work straight away, he'll be in trouble straight away. That is the problem with Marinakis. He's got absolutely no patience at all.
Yeah, no, for me, Forest fans are in a position now where, yes, we can be thankful for where we are as a club and the driving force that Marinakis has been, but I think there's very much, and I don't speak for every Forest fan, but certainly for the ones I speak to, and for me included, this has to be the time where patience is a virtue. This has to be a time where you give him a minimum of 2 years, because we can't be the Watford of the Premier League. And it might, we might scrape through.
We're going to give a manager 2 years. That's absolutely not going to happen. I mean, Glasner has to do, at least he has to match what Nuno did in that season where Forest had a great season. I think he's going to have to match that, because otherwise he's so impatient, the chairman, Look, it produces results, so,
Yeah, to varying degrees, and it's been an amazing journey for us. But I think Forest fans should rightly expect that there is a change of tack, because you cannot continue to run a club that way and expect to stay in the Premier League. In terms of Blueco, Chelsea fans, I've appreciated the fact that they've been out on the streets, very outspoken. They've been sort of different protests. Do you think that Blueco have done enough to quell any of that?
Yeah, I think the thing that they said when they fired Rossini, I think that's true. I think they have had a period of reflection. I spoke at the time with somebody at the club. They were definitely going to do that. They definitely have done that. They've called the manager, which is a big improvement. And the thing about Chelsea is, I mean, it is a bit of a player trading company, and they are good at that. I don't particularly like the way they tend to buy high and sell low, but they do turn over players, and that's how they're able to buy players, because they sell. They've got a load of players to sell. And I would imagine, wouldn't you think Enzo Fernandez? I still think he'll leave.
I was going to ask about him.
But there's a chance that he might go to City. If Rodri was to go to Real Madrid, it looks like City would be interested. And despite having bought Elliot Anderson, apparently Maresca said, "Oh no, we're still in the, still got a lot of business to do." You think?
Yeah,
really?
Well, we'll hear from Enzo Maresca
What a good team
later in the show. On Enzo Fernandez, how do you, if he does stay at Chelsea, even if it's just for a short time, but if he does play again in a Chelsea shirt, how do you feel about that? Because, I mean, we've both been quite outspoken about how we've disliked the tactics of the Argentinians. I've got Argentinian family. You've got friends in Argentina who have a very different perspective of how that all played out.
I had a whole conversation with one of them yesterday, and it's amazing. They just see it in a completely different way. And, I said to them, the rest of the world doesn't view it like this.
No.
But that's the way they look at it. And they don't think they did anything wrong. In fact, they thought it was a valiant effort. They thought, they had a lot of injuries. Spain had a day more than them to prepare, and everything was against them, and blah, blah, blah. And if they'd got to penalties, it would have been a great achievement.
Thuggish bullying behaviour.
Well, of course.
Do you think he'll get booed, Enzo Fernandez, by Chelsea fans if he pulls on the shirt again?
No. You get booed by the other fans. I just don't see it. I think he kind of burned his bridges, and it'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, they let Andre Santos go too, so they must have some plans. They wouldn't have, they've only really got, Caicedo in that sort of role. So, and Sugo, but he's young and unproven. So we'll see. But like I said, I still think there's a lot of business to be done by a lot of clubs.
For all the latest on that transfer business, of course, head to talksport.com. We'll get the very latest on that a little bit later as well. Did I say sport?
You did really.
It's because I'm thinking about Schlager.
Of course.
So good. Schlager talk sport.
Well, I was working with Steve McLaren there for a minute.
Right, you're listening to Hawksby and Jacobs on talkSPORT in partnership with Toolstation. Only got time for one stop. First stop, Toolstation. Delight to say Angelina Kelly's back in the studio to review her World Cup travels with us later on.
I think United want to move on. He's obviously on a hefty wage. I'm amazed Saudi haven't come in. I'm amazed he hasn't gone out to Saudi.
I think he won it.
Again, Saudi pay a lot more than 300 grand a week for a player obviously who's playing for England and still in his prime. Yeah. I'm very surprised Barcelona didn't do the deal. But then again, I expected him to do well at Barcelona. Most, average wingers would do well out there, the team they have. I don't know where he goes. If you were a Spurs, would you go for him?
That's the one that keeps nagging away in the back of my mind.
We'll take him for a loan.
Yeah.
And if he plays 23 games, you know what I mean, we'll obviously pay this fee and that fee. What United are going to have to probably end up doing is recuperating as much of that fee back and all the loan fees they've had the last 2 seasons and the next 2 seasons. So I'm thinking Spurs, they've got a few more experienced Premier League players they've signed.
And De Zerbi's the type of manager that feels he can.
I'm not sure
he feels he can fix players.
I'm not sure he'd put up with.
Really?
And then you'd worry about the London life, wouldn't you? So
yes, you would.
There's all those things. Rashford is incredibly talented. And you look at him and go, what are you doing with your career? You should be dominating. You should be dominating world
Even
football.
that World Cup, he comes on, doesn't he, the first game, scores a brilliant goal against Croatia, arguably England's best performance in that second
I agree.
half. He played a part of that. Starts the next game,
fur
sinks the
coat, no
place
knickers.
out,
Fur coat, no knickers.
and then never really gets his place back. Anthony Gordon becomes de facto left winger, not just for England, but Barcelona as well.
And the place was there because Gordon wasn't good in game one. And it was there to be won. And you just look at Rashford and you go, you've got all the tangibles to be world class. What is the matter with you? But again, I would say he's been on nearly £500,000 a week for the last, since he's 23? Is it again too much too soon?
talkSPORT, traffic and travel with Subway. Load up your fresh sub with an unbeatable lineup.
But first,
and all the fresh
there's
salad
danger.
and sauces you like.
Prenga, 20 wins, 20 knockouts. And AJ knows, one moment, one mistake, one punch will change history. AJ is back. But there is danger before destiny.
It's the Sports Bar Weekender. Tonight from 10. On talkSPORT. It's the nation's favourite sports speaking zone. I don't believe it! Free refill Friday night football talk. Get your feet off the table. You're in the Sports Bar Weekender. Triple distilled, hand-poured football talk. The Sports Bar Weekender. Tonight from 10. On talkSPORT.
Terry in Blackburn says, my mate used to think the word debut was pronounced debut because it was the first day you viewed a player.
Oh, I see.
And Ryan says, I only found out the other day that there is a name. This is a good one, actually, because I definitely didn't know this. There's a name for the smell of rain after a dry period. It's called petrichor. I never knew that.
You know that? I didn't know that. No.
Angelina Kelly's in the studio. Angelina, anything you didn't know about America or Americans until you spent the summer there?
It comes under the heading, I didn't realise.
Yeah, I didn't realise how little they really knew about football, soccer. As much as we all have a bit of a laugh and a joke about it, I thought, no, people will know. I mean, we had some social media content that we were getting of just speaking to fans and being like, do you know, showing them pictures of people. Do you know who these people are? Didn't even know who Maradona was.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. I tell you what, I didn't realise. I didn't realise that there was a bug going round on lettuce, which meant that you weren't able to eat salad for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
I did know that.
The last 2 weeks, it was touch and go for the talkSPORT team. No lettuce unless we knew it had been washed thoroughly. We were just getting to the end of the tournament. No one had been sick. We thought, you know what, we'll just avoid the lettuce, which is easy to do in America, I'll be honest.
It's not that tough.
Yeah.
You haven't put on weight.
No. Very, to be honest, we were on the go so much. Myself and Sonny, who I was working with, we were counting our steps, the amount of steps we were doing. We also seemed to take a lot of wrong turns and have to kind of do loops around the stadium. So we got our steps in.
Yes, I did 25,000 steps in Sochi during the 2018 on one day. So I know about that.
A lot of walking.
A lot of walking.
What were your highlights? Andrew? Because you've been...
You went to the World Cup final.
I mean, World Cup final was great, but there was so many different things and we got to experience so much. I think for me, the day before the final, we were with Adidas. I got to see the World Cup trophy. We got to go behind the scenes at the stadium.
Did you pinch yourself a bit?
Yeah, definitely. When you see it.
When you were in college and you were studying to do all this, I mean,
to be there, it's amazing. I think one thing though, we're all here at talkSPORT to understand the global reach that we have. For me, was crazy. We walked into a bar in Atlanta and this guy looked at us and he went, you're Angelina, you're Sonny, you're Harry, you guys support these teams. They knew us. So I'm thinking, what is going on? And he was like, I've been subscribed to the talkSPORT YouTube channel for years.
Wow.
I love, talking about Jason Cundy and, all these different names. Speaking to people, we met a guy called Billy from Manchester who was watching our content and listening to talkSPORT and got fear of missing out and paid £3,000 to go to Boston to go to a game. That's the effect that we have. So it was
incredible.
It was really lovely. Yeah,
Except
meeting people.
They said except between 1 and 4, we don't listen then. Actually, Classic FM.
Like, what happens then?
Yeah, exactly. And you did this thing where you tried all the food in the stadiums, and some of it was good value, and some of it was a complete rip-off, and some of it looked very artificial, and some of it you quite liked.
Yes, so it was half-time in Dallas. We went downstairs and saw that there were these things. I think it was a jalapeno cheese sausage. And we were like, what is that? And we thought, you know what? Let's give it a go. Poor Sonny, I made him eat it. I wasn't taking any chances.
Like it?
Yeah, he actually liked it. A few of them then split the rest of it during the game. So it was, it went down quite well. But I think that the prices were insane. And you talk about the expense of the World Cup in general anyway. Public transport minus New York isn't the best. People paying hundreds of dollars to get to places. For the tournament in general, we met one guy who'd spent £50,000 on the whole tournament. So expense was a big part of it. We were in Miami. We bought an empanada, which was, to be fair, quite big, but it was $50.
What?
$50 for an empanada. They also had, if people are watching, they can probably see
pasty, really.
the video right now, shaved ice. $11, $12 for shaved ice it was. And I'm explaining in this video, don't worry, we're not buying the shaved ice.
What do you do with shaved ice? You just chew on it?
Apparently like a snow cone, they call it. So it's like crushed ice and you can put syrup on it.
Flavours in.
It was insane. There was caviar. There was actual caviar being sold in Miami. The prices, you're talking $20, $30.
What, in the stadium?
Yeah, in the stadium in Miami. There was caviar on offer. It was crazy. I think I know. I can tell by your face. It's
not gonna have that at the City Ground, are they?
No, it's ridiculous. But in Atlanta, the owners of the stadium made a pledge to say we want to make this affordable for people. We want them to have a good fan experience. So for $30, you're getting a slice of pizza, massive load of popcorn, crisps, garlic knots, which were lovely, loads of different things. So that was quite a good experience, but it did create a bit of a culture war, I think, in the TikTok comments about the tipping culture, because obviously you have to tip in America. So a lot of this was including a 15 or 20% tip or whatever.
What gets my goat is when you'll order something from a bar, that they'll open a bottle of beer for you, they'll take the lid, and they expect a tip for that.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm all for, respecting the culture where you go. I refuse to do that. It's because, no, you've just opened the bottle. Give me the bottle opener, I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. And it was an interesting concept because in certain places they would leave you a receipt and you would have to write something down and sign it. And you speak to people, you understand the wages aren't amazing and people rely on them, but also it was a bit ridiculous speaking to fans of being like, you're going to purchase something, say you want to spend $30 on a meal, you have to factor in how much the tip will be, etc. But it was a great experience with the food. American viewers, annoyed that I was calling things a chicken burger. It's a chicken sandwich. There's no such thing as a chicken burger. Whatever it was. It wasn't great, quite a bit of it. Atlanta was my favourite because we just got so much for our money. It was a good experience.
We'll get on to United and the WSL in a minute, but for me, I've had to really separate in my mind the sort of the running of the World Cup and whether it's the hydration breaks, the halftime shows, the inordinate prices, from actually the Americans that welcomed fans from all over the world. And there were amazing hosts, obviously in Mexico as well, in Canada, but the Americans have gone mad for it, and they're great people to host people from all over the world. So they've sort of shown themselves off really well, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. The majority of people that we came across were all really friendly. They didn't know a lot about football. They may not have known who people were or what was going on, but they enjoyed it and they got stuck in and they got involved. A lot of the the volunteers, etc. I know the team that was in Kansas City, they spoke so highly of the people that were working there around the England training camp and how lovely they were. And there is a thing called Southern hospitality, most definitely. We were in Dallas in Stockyards, which I'm sure you guys will have seen by now, but it's like a street that looks like it's come off a Western or something. There's cattle walks that happen at certain times.
Is that where Crookie rode his bull?
Yeah, that's where Crookie was, yes. Having a
he still hasn't taken that hat off. That's
I mean, the hat, at one point I said, we need to get rid of this hat. We need to do something. We need to get it in the hospital.
I think, but though, you need someone in a hazmat suit to come and sort of clear it out. You know what I mean?
Well, it needs fumigating, definitely. But, we're in Dallas and we go and have something to eat, and the guy who owns the place is originally from Liverpool but has lived in the US for, decades, paid for our lunch.
Oh, that's sweet.
And just said, you guys are visitors. Obviously, I'm English as well, but you guys are here. We want to be hospitable, have lunch on us. So, yeah, it was lovely with the fans.
The Women's World Cup's next year, isn't it?
Yes, in
Where is
Brazil.
it? In Brazil.
Yes.
That'll be interesting. 'Cause we did the Brazil World Cup, and it was fun. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, England still haven't officially qualified. They've got to play 1 or 2 games. I think they're going to be facing Greece. Spain obviously qualified. I think they're definitely going to be one of the favourites. The men's and women's teams are amazing. The USA with Emma Hayes leading them. I think that one's going to definitely be an interesting one. And because that's, I guess, FIFA's next big competition, there was a lot of advertisement for it, which I thought was great.
Yeah, we had Ella Toone in the other day. It was absolutely brilliant. And she was just top. And talking about sort of how she was really good on the difficulty of turning around like a World Cup final disappointment and then essentially going straight back into pre-season. Must be tough, that sort of stuff. But we've only got a couple of minutes left. I want to ask you about Man United.
Yes.
General thoughts. Is Rashford going to play? Do you want Rashford to play? And how are you going to cope? One thing I'm interested in, Ange, is Man United getting a lot of pelters online for not maybe signing a marquee signing. Now, we think Yuri Tillemans is going to, oven-ready Premier League player, going to be great. But there isn't the big name signing. But the United fans I speak to don't mind that because they've been sick of the years of overspending on big names, and they actually like the fact that they've got what you can really describe as a proper team that maybe will be greater than the sum of their own parts kind of thing.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from with that one. I think there's still a couple of holes. I think defensively, I think you look at the fullbacks. I mean, I'll be honest, I was watching Jed Spence for England, and I thought a lot of people were quite sceptical about him, but his speed,
he was great.
I thought he was brilliant. I was looking at him
can't
thinking,
believe Tottenham are going to let him go.
Yeah, a Luke Shaw replacement potentially, for Manchester United. I thought he would be a great signing, but defensively there's still a few issues. People obviously wanted that big signing, but I think with Manchester City spending the money that they spent on Elliot Anderson, the market has been inflated in such a big way. And I think overall for Manchester United fans, like you touched on, United tend to just play that game. Oh, well, if they're spending that much, we're just going to have to do that. Let's just get someone. But it seems to be a lot more measured. Tielemans doesn't fit this profile that Ineos reportedly wanted of players being a certain age, etc. But he is experienced. We know what he can do. It is an exciting signing. Yeah, people are maybe waiting what's going to happen. Is there going to be one more big midfield signing? But I think overall to not go into those games of letting some players go because it was too much money, it seems like a smart way. Maybe they'll still come unstuck, who knows? But I think to not do the panic buying of, right, we need to just get this person, let's just sign them, let's pay whatever. It is refreshing for fans.
I think there's still a lot of business to be done by a lot of clubs, in things like we were talking about Enzo Fernandez. If he does move, especially if he moves to City, then that will free up money and players. And
definitely.
There'll be a sort of,
bit of a domino effect on that. But Angelina, unbelievable work in the World Cup. It was absolutely amazing.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to cross over to the blue side of Manchester to speak with Jamie Jackson, who's been at Enzo Maresca's first press conference as City boss. Stay tuned.
Let's just say something about Tottenham here. It's a big conversation because obviously it's about trophy wins, European Cups, all of those sort of things come into it. But in the modern world, it also comes down to support base. Money is so much involved, and Spurs are a big club, full stop. Of course, we're above someone like West Ham. We have got more support.
He had you above West Ham
globally. Well, I know, but he was almost fighting with that. You could also look at a support point of view globally. We would make Chelsea look tiny. They have had more recent success. Facts, have had more success. But we also got to think about Tottenham history. First team to do a domestic double. First team to win the European Cup. We have history that can't be ignored in the same way that like Aston Villa.
Without being pedantic, people will be shouting at the radio, a European Cup, not the European Cup.
A European Cup, yes, apologies.
That's all right.
And I think that history is important, it really, really is. And I don't want to sound like I'm banging on about the past. We know what we've been. I'm a realistic Tottenham fan. I've seen it. Arsenal are a big club. Hate saying it, they're a big club. bigger than us. I've got to say that as well, and that's going to upset people.
Rich, could you do me a favour then? You rate them 1 to 4 first.
It'll have to be Arsenal.
Okay.
Gives me the up, but there you go.
Then who?
And you're not. It's controversial. I'm going to put us above Chelsea and then West Ham at the bottom.
You think Spurs are bigger than Chelsea?
As a club and as a support.
talkSPORT News.
Good afternoon, you're listening to Hawksby and Jacobs with me, Max Scott, in for Paul. We're going to get into Enzo Maresca's first official comments as Man City boss. He's been speaking to the press. Jamie Jackson's going to join us from The Guardian. But first, Emma Kerwin has your news headlines.
Thank you, Max. Good afternoon. The Southport killer's been accused of trying to manipulate the system after he was transferred from prison to a high-security psychiatric hospital. Axel Rudacabana serving 52 years for the murders of 3 little girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in 2024. Chris Walker represents the victims' families. He says it's highly distressing.
He has to be permanently in a room, locked by himself, left to rot, in all honesty, without having the ability to affect the day-to-day lives of the families who are trying to live each day.
The Ministry of Justice has stressed the move would not alter the killer's sentence. Elsewhere, a car bomb's been intercepted by Irish police near the border with Northern Ireland.
It could have potentially caused significant damage.
Police Commissioner Justin Kelly says the car was stopped in an operation targeting dissident Republicans. A female driver in her 20s and another person are being questioned. R&B singer Chris Brown has admitted a fray over a bottle attack at a club in London. He had been facing trial later this year. Now he'll be sentenced in October. And the best day of his life is how Andy Burnham has described the opening of the new number 10 North in Manchester. He's holding his first meeting there to discuss devolution and local economic growth.
talkSPORT Sports Headlines with Bostik. For professional grade seams with easy application and a perfect finish, pros trust Bostik.
Jurgen Klopp threatens to quit on day 1 in the Germany job, and the saga of this year's AFCON final rumbles on. Nick has more at 3.
It's been an electrifying journey. The new season is back. It all kicks off on talkSPORT and talkSPORT 2 with the return of the EFL on Friday the 14th of August. We have 6 other massive fixtures across the weekend, including Arsenal versus Man City in the Community Shield. Magnificent! Get set as the Premier League bursts into life on Friday the 21st. Oh my goodness! Stand by for another adrenaline-fueled season of live and exclusive football. Buckle up, folks. August 14th on talkSPORT and talkSPORT 2.
No method, no guru, no teacher, just Hawksby and Jacobs.
Yeah, good afternoon. You're listening to Hawksby and Jacobs here. We're through till 4 o'clock, and then the boys on Drive are going to follow after us. Andy Goldstein, Troy Beanie. Now, it's a season, a change ahead in the Premier League. Of course, Arteta's still at Arsenal, looking to go back-to-back after winning their first title in 22 years. But you've got Iraola at Liverpool, Carrick and Roberto De Zerbi's first full seasons in charge at United. And at Spurs, you've got Xabi Alonso in at Chelsea. What a coup that is. And, of course, Enzo Maresca taking over at Man City. Let's hear from him now. He's been speaking for the first time today to the press, and he was asked what makes him confident of being a success at the club.
Yeah, first of all, I think the organization is the main thing. This club, this organization, they are 3 managers in 17 years. This is not normal. It's not happen often. So this probably is one of the things that I'm confident that we can do a great job. We can continue to do the job that has been done in the last probably 14, 15 years, since Roberto was here, Mancini, and then after Manuel. And yeah, as you said, for 10 years, Pep.
Yeah, it could be 4 and 18 years if you don't get it right, mate.
I was going to say, talk about things you didn't realise. I didn't realise 3 managers in 17 years, and a testament to the success that they've had at Manchester City. Let's bring in the Guardian's man in Manchester, friend of talkSPORT, Jamie Jackson. Good afternoon, Jamie, mate. How are you?
You both okay?
Yeah, good, thanks, Jamie.
I mean, what do you make of, we've all known for so long that Maresca's going to sort of follow in the footsteps of the master Pep Guardiola. How did he sort of come across today?
Yeah, very good question. He was very relaxed. I mean, He's going to be at the start of this, as you just sort of kind of indicated. You know, he looks tanned. There's a twinkle in his eye. The shutters really didn't come down on any questions. But yeah, you know, the thorny issue is following a great. I don't think anyone could argue that Pep Guardiola is not a great manager in this or any era. And it was interesting that he himself volunteered the idea that, you know, when you follow a big manager at a big club, and you know, he mentioned Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger, you know, clubs can struggle. You know, he brought that up himself. So, you know, he's aware of the challenges, and, you know, you kind of have it right, Andy. Let's hope he's not they're not looking for number 5 by Christmas in sort of 17 years, whatever it is, because, you know, it is going to be difficult. I would suggest, and maybe it sounds a bit simplistic, if they can keep Rodri, yes, he's got a heck of a chance of doing very well, because, you know, if we didn't know it already, he is head and shoulders above, you know, any other midfielder, especially the way the Premier League's gone, the way in which Rodri is so calm. You know, I'm not going to say they're going to win the title if they do keep him, but, you know, he's got a heck of a chance. But that in itself is in the balance.
In a way, it's fortunate for them that he's injured, because that makes the transfer much less likely at this point. Big difference, though, between following Fergie and Wenger, where the teams had basically, they'd both wrung the most they could get out of them. Whereas this is, like you said, they've got some great players, City. They've got Haaland for a start, and they've just signed a midfielder for 116 million. So, I mean, you know, they're not short of players, are they?
No, 100%, Andy. And also the other thing is the organisation here, I would suggest, is streets ahead of, you know, both of those clubs actually at the time. You know, 2013, Manchester United were, I think it's fair to say, a mess. And maybe they're coming out of that a little bit now. And Arsenal maybe weren't a mess, but they certainly weren't in the shape they are, you know, now with Arteta there. So he's got that behind him, and he knows that. And also he's been here twice before. He was the manager of the EDS team that won the title, and, you know, that's sort of development side, obviously, in the single season. I think that was 1920 or 2021. He's also, as we all know, the assistant when Pep Guardiola took him to the treble. But, you know, we all know what football's like. It's cutthroat, it's good fun, it's a soap opera, and all these sort of positive sort of auguries can change just like that if they, you know, how can I say, if they bomb, which I don't think they will, but they bomb the first few games, and suddenly it's like, why did they go to Maresca? You know, what was the thinking? You know exactly how it works.
Yeah, of course. I think they'll make a good start, but I'm noticing it happened at Leicester, it happened at Chelsea a couple of times. The team, he sort of works the team very, very hard, and I just wonder, you know, by Christmas how they'll be looking, because certainly both Leicester and Chelsea sort of struggled in the second half of the season, came back to do well, but had this period where they didn't. So we'll see if that happens.
Yeah, no, again, you are correct, and as you're sort of saying that, I'm thinking, what is the, you know, with regard to sort of when Guardiola came in, what's the difference with Maresca? Well, obviously Guardiola had already won a treble at Barcelona. He'd handled players like Messi, obviously, for many years, maybe his peak years, actually. Been at Bayern Munich, I think won the league there, free on the bounce. So what I'm trying to get to say is, when he does want to work them hard, Maresca, he hasn't got that body of work for people like Rodri to go, okay, I'm going to take this from you because, you know, you've won all that stuff like Guardiola had. But this is what we're going to find out. This is his challenge. This is kind of what he's alluding to. Sorry, not alluding to. He's actually explicitly saying, you know, he's got a big challenge before him. But, you know, I actually thought at the time it was an interesting choice. They probably couldn't get Arteta, for example, here. You know, I think that might have been their first choice. So I did think it was an interesting choice. You would know more than me, Andy, sort of seeing him day in, match in, match out under him. But I was impressed that they won the Club World Cup. Some might say, you might say, oh, you know, what sort of tournament is that? But I was over there.
No,
and
it was good. It was a good win.
Yeah,
and same with the conference, and same with getting us into the Champions League. No, he's a good manager. I don't think any Chelsea fans have got anything bad to say about it. The football wasn't great, but, you know, he wouldn't be the first manager you could apply that to.
And so, you know, they're off on tour on Monday or Tuesday, but that will be with a sort of skeletal squad for all the obvious reasons of the World Cup. And he'll only have his sort of, if you want to call it, the bigger players, those who sort of, you know, France, etc., Spain, you know, Spanish, English players who sort of went that far into the World Cup, sort of the week before the Community Shield, I believe it is, or it might even just be the week before the Premier League season starts. So, you know, he also said that Rodri's going to have surgery on Monday. I'm not too sure how serious that is with regard to that procedure. So, but again, he will, you know, need a rest after that. So, be without him. But you're very correct what you say there about it might help him a little bit with regard to keeping hold of Rodri. Although, of course, it's the old thing. If he turns round, the player, I mean, and says, "Oh, I want to go," then that's sort of obviously, you know, that's a sort of bit of a game changer. Really. It's very difficult, especially a player of that stature, who I don't think anyone can argue is a heck of a player, says that my future's not going to be here for the foreseeable. He's only got a year left, you see, so it's sort of this window or never with regard to cashing in on him.
That's true, and he's only going to Real Madrid, which rules out Enzo Fernandez going to Real Madrid, which would mean I think City would look at him. Obviously him and Maresca got on very well, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, definitely. They would need a replacement. If you ask me, do I think Rodri will stay? I think at the moment it's about a 75-25 in City's favour, which is pretty. That's a decent sort of proportion.
Sadly, Jamie, we can't really talk about Manchester City without mentioning the 115 charges against them. Stefan Borsten's been telling us for 18 months that decision is imminent. We're still waiting for it.
Yeah, right.
Has he had anything to say about it? I mean, you know, Stefan Borsten's also got a point that the fact that they're spending 116, not 115 million on Elliot Anderson, that they seem quite relaxed about this. Has he had anything to say?
Yeah, he wasn't asked about that in the section. So I'm guessing, that would be a question whether the shutters come down. Obviously, City deny all wrongdoing. I sort of saw Stefan's bit yesterday. I think it was on the morning show, wasn't it, on talkSPORT, talking about. I know Stefan a little bit as well, obviously he's well informed. So, yeah, I mean, it's like, how long is a piece of string when we're going to get the verdict? It's now 3 years, which I'm first of all, that's gone fast, but crumbs, 3 years. I get that it's very complicated litigation, all the rest of it, but it just seems like surely within the next 2 or 3 months, you'd like to think it's resolved. And I think whatever the results, and obviously, as I've got to say again, City denial wrongdoing, whatever the results, I think that will then open up another can of worms, whichever way it goes.
No, it is. It's absolutely.
And it's not a good look for the Premier League either. And because if as you've rightly said, Jamie, City deny the wrongdoing, and it turns out they haven't done anything wrong. Well, their reputation's kind of been dragged through the mud for far too long. And yes, I echo your point. It's an incredibly complex case, but it's just not a good look for football because there's this sort of perceived injustice from fans and a lot of misinformation doing the rounds. And if the club are confident they're going to win this case, well, it would seem that they know about the outcome, but football fans don't. And so all that time, there's this doubt and speculation brewing. I think that something needs to be done about it, really.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what I meant by whichever way it goes, you're going to get a sort of a Pandora's box open, because when you talk about the Premier League, you would think they had very robust legal advice before they went into this, yes? Sort of saying, if we think you've got a good case, as I've got to say against City, obviously deny that. But I'm just saying, from the Premier League's point of view, so therefore, if it doesn't go the Premier League's way, then it's going to be all about, well, what the heck were you doing, sort of wasting everyone's not wasting, but you understand what I mean, sort of getting into this with a sort of foot, and it's turned out not the way you were advised.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. He also talked about the futures of a couple of players, Grealish and Trafford. What did he say about them? Well,
yeah, he sort of said that Grealish particularly he's had contact with him since he's been out of the club, Maresca, and he's now back in the foot. He basically, I think they're going to leave. Is my reading of it. Grealish again has only got 1 year left. He sort of said something like, "Well, while Jack's here, then he's our player." In essence, that's what he said. Let's see what happens. And the same with regard to James Trafford. I think Trafford at the moment looks kind of half nailed on for Leeds. Don't know where Jack Grealish goes, but unlike Rodri, I think it would be a surprise now if those two players were still here, 1st of September, whenever the window goes. I think both of them are going, basically.
Yeah, Jamie, thank you so much for your time, mate. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting season.
Yes, gents. Cheers.
Pleasure. That is Manchester correspondent from The Guardian, Jamie Jackson, talking us through Enzo Maresca's first press conference. I really do think, Andy, that this isn't a massive rebuild for Maresca. And you see the clips when Steve Cooper took over at Leicester and the players went on that night out chanting after Enzo Maresca. The Chelsea players, by all accounts, really enjoyed working with him.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to slot right into a system he knows. And I do think City are going to be all force next season.
Oh, of course they will, yeah.
Right, listen to TalkSPORT and Jacobs on talkSPORT in partnership with Toolstation. Make the switch to Toolstation Trade Club. Save 10% on all electrical and lighting when you buy cable and flexes. First stop, Toolstation.
if Arsenal,
And Chelsea can't win a league.
If Arsenal don't win it, I think Chelsea, with Xabi Alonso,
No.
Chelsea need to be one of the teams dreaming. One of the teams, look, a front line of Pedro, Esteval, Palmer, Rodgers is capable of scoring enough goals to win the league. If we now bring in Lacroix, bring in John Stones, sign a new goalkeeper, all of a sudden you're looking at a team with one game to play a week. You're looking at a team that could potentially win a league title.
Mate, you're talking guff.
No, that's not. That's
You're not
very
winning-
rational chap.
Rory, you're not winning the league.
We are unlikely to win it, but we are one of the 5 teams that can
No.
legitimately be considered capable of winning it.
No, you're not.
We are 100%.
No, you're not.
No, you're just a biased Tottenham fan.
No, you are not in the conversation to win the league.
We are.
You are. Let's get Champions League. That's your aim.
That's the primary aim because Arsenal are going to win the league. What I'm saying is, if Arsenal don't win the league,
Right, you've got Liverpool, Man City.
So just forget Arsenal. Arsenal, it all goes wrong. They shoot themselves in the foot. It goes as wrong as it went for Liverpool. Look, that won't happen. I think Arsenal will win the league. Let's just pretend they don't. Arsenal are not champions. Who are? The answer to that question is
Liverpool,
Manchester United, Manchester City.
No, it's not Man United.
Liverpool, Chelsea.
No.
Yes.
No, it's not.
Well, you don't think Man United can win it?
No.
Of course they can.
No, they can't win the league. They can't.
Based
on the fact it's the second season of them, they've now got to deal with Europe. They've got to play, double the amount of games that they played.
Nobody accrued more points than.
talkSPORT, traffic and travel with Sunray. Take your lunch into a different league. With your sub on a spud. Everything you put on your sub on a spud.
20 wins, 20 knockouts. And AJ knows. One moment, one mistake, one punch will change history. AJ is back. But there is danger before destiny.
Weekend Sports Breakfast. Tomorrow morning from 6. High Energy National Sports Breakfast. The professionals' picks and pies and previews. The intersection of entertainment, sport and celebrity. Respected associations of analysis and prediction. Weekend Sports Breakfast. Tomorrow morning from 6. talkSPORT.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us, whether it's on your radio, smart TV, YouTube. Me, Max Scott, and Andy Jacobs here with you till 4 p.m. We're going to talk about some the cricket because there will be no men's Ashes test in the north of England next year, which I think is an absolute disgrace, as I'm sure you can imagine. And there's some big news regarding the captaincy, which you've been hearing in Nick's sports bulletins. But before we chat cricket with our editor John Norman, let's head to the Commonwealth Games where Michael Waddock's bringing us the news of England getting their first medal.
Not just England getting the first medal, the very first medals of Glasgow 2026 have just been awarded in the last few moments. It's a history-making moment as well because it's the first time ever at these games that a para-sport has the honour of having those first medals. So I am at the Armadillo on the Scottish event campus for the para-powerlifting, where the gold medal in the men's lightweight category has just gone to Team England's Mark Swan. So we have just heard Jerusalem had the medal ceremony, Nigeria with the silver and Malaysia with the bronze. Now Mark won silver in Birmingham. He's upgraded that medal. He lifted 212 kilograms, then 222 kilograms. Failed with his final lift of 232 kilograms. You need 2 or more white lights for a good lift from the judges here. But the count back, if you like, and then the conversion from your body weight into the weight that you've been lifting into the points gave him a score of 153.9, and it is a gold for Team England. First medals won, and maybe Olivia Broom, who's up next in the women's lightweight category, silver medalist 4 years ago in Birmingham, could be adding to that total for Team England, but they are on the board at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow.
Commonwealth Games update on talkSPORT with BYD. Dare to dream with BYD and the Commonwealth Games.
Cheers, Michael. Brilliant stuff. A reminder, we've got a Commonwealth Games special tonight with Natalie Sawyer and Greg Rutherford. I didn't realise, because of this sort of Team GB, Team England
Another
stuff.
I didn't realise.
Yeah, that Jerusalem is England's national anthem when it's... Must be when...
I didn't know
just
that
Team
either,
England.
to be honest, yeah.
I think, and this might be controversial, I think that should be our national anthem anyway, as it, in the football. I think it's a great tune. Is that controversial?
Well, it could be.
Well, text in 810
for only fools and horses.
Right, well, let's get into some cricket chat now. John Norman is joining us, our cricket editor. John, thanks for being with us this afternoon, because For my money, the ECB's in an absolute mess. I think that the one man that should have remained in this absolute chaos that we've had since the Ashes is Ben Stokes, and he's out. Brendan McCullum's out. Rob Key's in. And so we've been looking for a replacement, and there, of course, were only two real options. And for me, I don't know about you, Andy, but going for Joe Root rather than Harry Brooks isn't what I would have done. I'm not a cricket expert per se, but Joe Root hasn't really got a great record. I mean, that's the latest news we're hearing, John. What do you make of it, and what do you know?
Yeah, it's a hokey-cokey a little bit, isn't it? And the Hawksby and Jacobs theme song, that should be our national anthem. But look, it's just been one thing after the other. Look, the latest on this is there's still no confirmation from the ECB that Joe Root is coming back to be the Test captain, permanent or interim, which is what we believe. But what we do know is that surely the coach is going to have a say in who the captain is, and there is no coach. So Andy Flower ruled himself out of the coaching role. We know that. The short list of those that remain isn't long. But the feeling now is that Marcus Trescothick may well be the interim coach for the Pakistan series. There's a big gap between the Pakistan series at the back end of August, start of September, and the next assignment for the Test team, which will be in South Africa in December. So it does give a little bit more time. But it could be that we've got an interim coach and an interim captain. Joe Root expected to be announced as the captain for that series, but whether he's going to be announced as a captain past that, I'd say it's probably unlikely, because as I say, surely the coach is going to have a say, and they haven't decided who that is yet.
What possesses them to leave out either, both, but certainly one of Headingley or Old Trafford should have been in there? I mean, it's like they don't read the room. I mean, we've always played well there. They're traditional Ashes venues. Why would you not put an Ashes Test in one of those venues? It makes no sense.
Well, look, this was a decision that was made a couple of years ago. It's only come around again now because the actual dates have been put out there. They're in the schedule now. Yeah. We've known about it for a while. Look, part of the problem is your favourite ground, Andy. You know, it's kind of written in law that Lords has got to host 2 Test matches every summer, and there are normally 6 Test matches every summer. So that means that somebody's got to miss out. So unfortunately, with the real politicking that has been going on for the last 15 years in and around Hampshire, they really pushed for an Ashes Test 4 years ago. And Rod Bransgrove, who's done as much for cricket in this country as pretty much anyone, he was really, really put out when they didn't get an Ashes Test 4 years ago. This year, they've got one. And of course, if Lords has got one, for sure, and Lords is also going to host the Bangladesh Test. So Lords has got 2 Test matches next year. It's got 3 this year when you factor in the Women's Test. So it's got 2 Tests at Lords. Hampshire's got 1 Test. And that doesn't leave a great deal for everybody else, because, of course, my favourite Test ground, the Oval, always gets one as well.
It's true, but, you know, I still think it's a mistake. But
I'm not saying it's... I'm in no way am I saying it's not a mistake. Look, I think what people, or some people, fail to understand is that, you know, going to a day's cricket, you know, is pretty much all people do when it comes to Test cricket. It's 1 day out a year. But if your Test experience is Lords, that's a very different Test experience from the Oval, you know? And the same again for all the other grounds around the country. It's a very different audience in the Holly Stand at Edgbaston than it is on the Western Terrace at Headingley. And this is where cricket is doing itself down. You know, you're essentially saying this audience we're going to prioritise, and this audience, well, they can wait till next year.
That's kind of how I feel about it. I think that the game of cricket, you know, in the North is, well, the North has given so much to the game of cricket, and to only have, you know, Nottingham, which is in the Midlands, it's not in the North. For that to be the sort of furthest north, it kind of feels like a bit of a slap in the face to, you know, to fans up in the north of the country, and not to be the sort of guy on his soapbox who has a northern accent. I'm only from the Midlands, actually. But I kind of just think that they've not really read the room, and this approach of sharing things equally when it isn't equal, as you've said, John, because Lords gets priority over everything. And for me, Old Trafford or Headingley are much better venues than the Rose Bowl or the Utilita Bowl, and I just sort of think they've got it wrong here. But just going back to the captaincy, because we saw
also one point you made earlier to me, and it's true. England's most successful round these grounds are grounds where, England tend to do quite well. So again, it's a bit of a mistake, I think, from that point of view.
On the captaincy, though, John, Ben Stokes obviously went and hit that ton, I think in a 50-over game just a few days ago. Is there a world where this is an interim captaincy because the ECB are essentially giving themselves and Ben Stokes a cooling off period to sort of lick their own wounds, self-inflicted for me from the ECB, and that there's a potential path for him to return to captain the Ashes team next summer?
Well, look, you can never write anything off in this world, can you? Yeah. So it may happen. I think it's unlikely. I think it's just more proof that serious errors were made off the back of the Ashes, and that involves the incident surrounding Harry Brook in Wellington, which was before the Ashes, and then the decision to stay with Stokes, McCullum and Key straight after the Ashes had finished. Is there a world where Stokes is still part of this team if Brendan McCullum had been moved to one side 6 months ago? Yeah. But is Brendan McCullum going to go anywhere in the next year? Probably not. Will Stokes come back into the fold when McCullum, although not with the Red Bull team, is still part of the England setup? I'd say that's a push. So, look, you never know what's around the corner and you don't know what's going to happen. What you do know, and we all know, is that Ben Stokes was burnt out after the Ashes. Yeah. There's very few captains that can last more than 4 years in that job. It's so demanding, and even when you're not an all-rounder. So it could be that in 6 months' time, Ben Stokes physically, more importantly, mentally, feels that actually he could go again. But then what world are we going to be living in at that point anyway? So, look, it could happen. But if you were to look at it right now, you'd say the smart money is that we'll never see Ben Stokes play for England again. And that is a crying shame.
Well, we live in hope anyway. We live in hope. John, thank you so much for joining us, mate.
Cheers, guys.
That's John Norman, talkSPORT's cricket editor. Muteen's got in touch saying England's anthem should be Land of Hope and Glory. It's a more powerful song to sing, he says.
Okay.
Fair enough. I mean, look, talking about hope and glory, I spoke to Harmy yesterday, who came on the show, and then John, and they're both saying, and they know far more than me, they're in the know more than me, they can't see a world where Ben Stokes returns. I think there is a world, because there's always a storyline around Ben Stokes, and I think that it might be after a test series against Pakistan with Joe Root as captain and an interim head coach that we might actually just need him. It might be a necessity that the ECB go back to him cap in hand, Andy.
Maybe. We'll see. Yeah, it's a long way off from that.
All right, listen to Hawksby and Jacobs on talkSPORT in partnership with Toolstation. Make the switch to Toolstation Trade Club. Save 10% on all electrical and lighting when you buy cable and flexes. First stop, Toolstation. Next up, we're going to get the very latest from Woking, where Jermaine Defoe, after just 6 competitive games in charge, is a goner.
Is it going to disadvantage Arsenal that a lot of their players have gone deep into the draw? Martin Odegaard, who obviously had injury issues last season, made it all the way through to the quarterfinals. And you look at Chelsea, Cole Palmer,
they're all
fully
fresh,
presumably.
Yeah.
I think he had the summer off. Phil Foden at Manchester City.
Yeah, Fernandes got half of the World Cup final on. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I get your point, and it's always interesting after a major championship, a World Cup, a Euros, South American one. How are the players going to be? Are they rested? I think the same at Liverpool. Some of the players coming back has Van Dijk. I know they didn't go deep, Holland, but again, he played more minutes than anyone last year. He was up there.
Got to the final.
Well, McAllister suddenly looked like the player we had 2 years ago. I don't know where that version of him was last year, so it'd be nice to see that for Liverpool this year. But I think Arsenal got a big squad. I think they recruited really well last year. I think they'll recruit again this summer. It would be foolish to bet against them. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. But you've obviously got then the Champions League. You've got all the cup games. And the biggest thing for me last year was when I saw Declan Rice playing a League Cup game.
Yeah,
that was the thing, and my head fell off my shoulders. And you look at that guy. I don't just think he's physically exhausted. I think he's mentally exhausted. I saw him in that third place game, and after the game, he looked someone that was he looked like a ghost.
Yeah,
I'd be giving him 2 months off.
Really, not even
I'd be giving. I'd be giving
because they've got the Community Shield in Cardiff.
I'd be saying to him, "You go away for like a month. Go get a holiday with your family, and then we're going to do a month of light training, and you're not going to touch a football for a couple of months."
The Oki for live World Match Play Darts
on talkSPORT 2. That treble 20 is getting pulverised.
Tonight from 7.
talkSPORT 2 hits the bullseye with live and exclusive commentary of all the double top drama. Direct from the Winter Gardens, Blackpool. He's hit it again!
As 32 of the world's finest darts players compete for the Phil Taylor Trophy.
Titanic tussle of the tungsten.
World Match Play Darts. Tonight from 7.
Live on talkSPORT 2.
On 1089 and 1053 medium wave, on your mobile and on your smart speaker. Talk Sport.
Talk Sport.
With your headlines at 3 o'clock, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good afternoon. Jurgen Klopp threatened to quit on day one as Germany head coach, telling the media, "Come for my family and I'll walk. And if you think I'm rubbish, I'll leave without asking for compensation." German football expert Rafa Honigstein's told us Klopp's reminding journalists of their role in bringing the country together.
Klopp, as you know from his Liverpool days, is someone who feeds off the wider energies, not just the players. It's not just the crowd in the stadium. It's the wider fans, it's the wider supporters, it's the city, and in this case, it could be the whole country.
Following a disappointing run of tournaments for Germany, Klopp signed a 4-year deal. Now from one Premier League legend to another former legend. Anyway, what's it like following Pep Guardiola?
For me, it's a privilege. I consider Pep probably the best coach in the world in the last 20-25 years. But again, it's a challenge.
Enzo Maresca follows 10 years of Pep at Man City. The new boss says there's more transfer business to be done following the signings of Elliot Anderson and Jeremy Monga. We're told Joe Root will be the New England Test cricket captain, but as interim, he could stay in the role until the end of next summer's home Ashes. The first gold medal of these Commonwealth Games goes to Team England. Mark Swan wins the para powerlifting, and Adam Ramsey-Petey's through to tonight's 100-metre breaststroke semi-final, but he's not happy with a 15-minute delay for a broken lane marker in his heat.
I mean, it's not ideal. It's like going to get your car home with tea and then waiting another 5 hours, I guess. But for me, you've got a job done there. See what we do in the semi-final.
talkSPORT's live coverage of the Commonwealth Games continues tonight from 7 p.m.
talkSPORT News.
The Southport killer's accused of trying to manipulate the system over his transfer to a psychiatric hospital, and a car bomb's been intercepted by Irish police near the border with Northern Ireland. Emma has more at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. This summer, treat yourself to Bridgestone Turanza All-Season 6 tyres with a 25,000 mileage guarantee. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
England and Wales dry with plenty of sunshine. In the southeast, feeling warm. Northern Ireland and Scotland, though, cloudier with patchy rain.
An all-you-can-eat broadcast buffet of big names banging.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Hawksby and Jacobs with me, Max Scott, in for Paul. Andy Jacobs alongside. Tell you something we've not mentioned, actually, which I think probably deserved to be mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah.
It's the news that we understand Pep Guardiola has turned down the Italy job.
Oh, yeah, that was a couple of days ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, first time I'd seen it today was on
another I didn't realise.
Yeah, I didn't realise Pep wasn't having it.
Yeah.
But imagine that, though. If
he was never taking that job. Never in a billion years.
Why do you think he entertained the talks then?
He was always his old mate. I thought, why not a nice trip to Italy? Some nice food. But I don't think he was ever seriously taking the job. They haven't got the money to pay him. He was on about 20 million a year. And also, Pep, he likes a sabbatical. He will be back, but not for some time, I don't think.
One thing I did think was, and this is no criticism of Pep, I'm not coming for him, he's of course one of the greatest, but every time I hear a player that's played under Pep, they say it took me about 6 months to a year to understand what the hell he wanted me to do on the pitch, because there's that much detail.
Really?
And you'd imagine that going into an Italian football federation that haven't qualified for a World Cup for the last 3 times, it might be quite difficult with very limited time to get the Italians playing the Pep way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I never thought it was a starter. It seemed like a non-starter to me. That's how it turned out. We're into pictures of footballers on holiday mode now.
Oh, yeah.
Now the World Cup's over. Nice shots of Erling Haaland on a jet ski. That's what we all like to see.
On Erling Haaland, I mean, the Americans have gone mad for him. Erling Haaland got more followers than the Cape Verde goalkeeper Vozinha, who went from 30,000 to 20-odd million.
Really?
Yeah, and there's this trend going around on social media. I only noticed it yesterday. That is so bizarre, but people are just putting a video or a photo out there saying, isn't it fun that Erling Haaland will comment on this just saying nice? And he does every single time. I mean, for me, Erling Haaland spends too much time on social media. He needs to enjoy his time off.
I think he knows what he's doing.
Can you see a move to the States on the cards for Erling Haaland later in his career?
Seeing
how well he's gone down?
Yeah, later in about another 10 years, maybe.
Yeah. No, he came out of that World Cup.
No, I think he'll do a bit more time at City, but I think eventually, surely he's going to go to one of the big.
Madrid?
Madrid, yeah, you'd imagine, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, we'll see how it all pans out with Enzo Maresca, but huge loss for City if and when that does happen. Right, I want to talk a little bit about Woking.
Oh yes,
because of course the football club, the fans were absolutely delighted just 6 months ago when they announced the appointment of Jermaine Defoe as manager. But yesterday it was revealed that he's left his role as Woking manager after just 4 months, and 6 competitive games in charge. And we couldn't think of anyone else better. We also couldn't think of anyone else to come on and talk about this news regarding Woking than talkSPORT's very own Ben Fletcher, host of Extra Time, who's going to be on the Sports Bar this evening with Cole Palmer. Fletch, thanks for joining us, mate. What on earth is going on?
Good afternoon. Martin Tyler was unavailable. Paul Weller was unavailable, so you stuck with me, I'm afraid.
We didn't even try them, to be really honest. I went straight for you. I'm going to say that. I did.
Oh, good man. Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Max. Just one of absolute bewilderment, really. I mentioned Martin Tyler there. It's such a shame that this news has come in the week that Woking actually launched their Centre of Excellence, named after Martin Tyler, club legend,
really?
honorary president. Yeah. And one-time assistant manager under the great Alan Dowson, taking us back up to the National League from National League South. But anyway, it's disappointing to go from such a high and such a huge step forward for the club to what is purely and simply something categorically embarrassing. As you say, Jermaine Defoe has only been in the club 4 months. For him to walk out on Woking or to be mutually terminated, as it was put officially, with the season a week tomorrow is just absolutely unfathomable. And I saw the news last night. My phone went off like a firework. And my gut reaction was somebody must have just hacked our social media. Please, this can't actually be happening to us right now. But it has. And yeah, I've kind of been up and down with feelings and who's to blame and whatnot. But I think first and foremostly, it's a real shame that we won't get to see Jermaine Defoe's Woking, because I know it was something that the fans were excited about. I was excited about it. My 2 sons, 10 and 8, very, very excited about it. That opportunity is now gone forever.
That is a pity. I mean, but you have no idea why this happened. Both sides were quite tight-lipped, as they say.
Yeah, Jermaine Defoe's statement was very, very interesting. Words to the effect of, I couldn't possibly continue within the role. It became impossible for me to do so. Now, a man who's played for England, a man who's played for several Premier League clubs, I don't think he suddenly looked at his petrol receipts and thought this isn't sustainable in any way. There are suggestions that there's been some sort of fallout or difference of opinion between Jermaine Defoe and the boardroom. Perhaps things that he was promised over the summer didn't materialise, or from the club's point of view, maybe they gave him everything and his expectations were unrealistic. We think back to Paul Scholes when he was at Oldham back in, I think it was 2019, a tenure that lasted like 1 or 2 months. And is it possible that a Premier League player turned coach has gone into a situation which is far less comfortable than perhaps they were expecting? Yeah. There's no budget. The pitch is a nightmare. They can't do this. They can't do that. And they've thrown their toys out the pram. Now, there are noises to that effect that I'm hearing. As I've said, I'm also hearing that there was effectively a breakdown in communications relationship between Defoe and the board. They called his bluff, or he called their bluff, whichever way you want to look at it, and they part company. But it's not a great look. Just to say, by the way, this is not an incident in isolation. I'll give you a truncated history of what's been happening at Woking this season. We've had several fixtures called off at the very last minute because the pitch was deemed to be unplayable. We were then slapped with a capacity limit because instructions from the local safety advisory group were ignored. And we were told, well, we're going to cap your capacity then, and that's that. So the anger and frustrations among Woking fans, of which I am one, this afternoon, is that this just feels like the latest in a long line of embarrassing PR blunders. This is not just the manager deciding that he's got a job at Rangers or Tottenham, and it's unclear what Defoe's going to do next, isn't it? This is the latest in a long line of embarrassing thing that's happened. And you just... One of the great things about being a Woking fan is you come to the office on a Monday morning and those embarrassing results just go completely under the radar because you're not Arsenal bottoming the Premier League, you're not Tottenham having a stinker. But when you become national news because your manager's walked out 8 days before the start of the season, it is just one of those, bitterly disappointing.
Ben, Kieran Maguire, obviously famed football finance expert, who's regularly on talkSPORT, tweeted in response to the club's statement regarding Jermaine Defoe, saying Woking were losing 35 grand a week and ran up a total losses of over £12 million prior to Defoe's arrival. Notwithstanding his experience as being a top player, as being a fully qualified pro, excited about being in management and making his mark at Woking, you would think that there'll be a financial element to not having Jermaine Defoe in the seat in terms of extra local casual fans that will want to come and see Jermaine Defoe's Woking. How are the club sort of looking in terms of that financial perspective? Is it something that fans like you, season ticket holders like you, are worried about?
I saw Kieran Maguire's tweet. A huge fan of his work, and you'll know, Max, that his voice is a very valuable one in our bulletins on talkSPORT. But it's important to put a little bit of context on this. That was for the last financial year, ending June 2025. December 2024, we went through a takeover. So the previous owner, by his own admission, had to borrow £600,000 off his mum and dad. Bank of mum and dad, as he put it, to keep the club going. So whilst, things didn't look great, the balance sheet was awful. We're now under the new ownership of Todd Johnson, and you'd hope that financially things are on an upward footing from that point onwards. Not wrong figures, they're the right figures, but from a long time ago, long before Jermaine Defoe was even a twinkle in the director of football's eye. As for the Jermaine Defoe impact, it's now a lost one, isn't it? I mean, people would have bought season tickets because they want to see Jermaine Defoe in the dugout, a fan of him as a player for many clubs. And we had a pre-season friendly against Portsmouth, so clearly his relationships with other clubs was paying dividends. And from a commercial point of view, all those local businesses who would have come in to give money to the club, sponsorship money, that are now thinking, well, hang on a minute, this isn't what I signed up for. And season ticket holders, I have checked, you can't section 25 on your credit card a season ticket purchase because they got rid of the manager, I'm afraid to say.
So what next then, mate? As you say, 8 days out in the seat until the season starts. I imagine the ambition still will be promotion, but that must have taken a big dent with Defoe leaving.
I think you're absolutely right. It has done. To lose the opportunity to ever really get a glimpse of what Jermaine Defoe's Woking could look like. I mean, the 6 games he was in charge, 2 wins, 3 draws and a defeat. And that defeat was a 91st minute fumble by the goalkeeper. So he was seconds away, really, from having an undefeated tenure as Woking manager. In terms of what happens next, Max, former goalkeeper, legend of the club, Craig Ross, which has stepped in on a caretaker basis a couple of times. I would imagine the job will go to him for the foreseeable. Certainly there'll be a clamour from the fan base for him to get another chance. He was the one that took over from Neil Ardley, who was sacked at the start of 26, and he steered the ship, got us clear of relegation. He's shown that he's got something, a great bond with the supporters, and he punches the shirt and kisses the badge and everything else. So he will get the job for the foreseeable future. Beyond that, who knows? Might it be that managers look at this, they look at Jermaine Defoe's thinly veiled, some would argue, dig at the club and be put off by it? Or from Jermaine Defoe's point of view, has he just torpedoed his own career? Will he go down as a young, exciting manager who basically couldn't hack it, walked away at the first sign of trouble? It remains to be seen. I think as a senior club source messaged me this afternoon, a lot's going to come out in the wash.
Oh, really? What have you got for us tonight, Ben?
Weekend Sports Bar, they've let me off weekend overnights for good behaviour, which, knowing me as well as you do, Andy, is a rare thing in these parts. It'll be a phone-in with Carlton Cole. We'll be reacting to the week's top stories. I dare say there will still be people angry about England's second half against Argentina. Whilst I can't believe the World Cup's been and gone, we did a post phone-in after the England-France game, and back-to-back calls for about 3.5 hours. Yeah. Never mind the fact England finished third in the World Cup. People still angry with Thomas Tuchel's team selection. So there'll be a lot of that.
Yeah. Still a live issue. Fletch, mate, thanks so much, and enjoy this evening with Coley.
Thanks for having me. Come on, you Cards.
That's Ben Fletcher. Sports Bar presented this evening, Extra Time, host, massive Woking loyal.
Very passionate about
it. And I think a really sort of level-headed look as well at that, in terms of, look at it from one way. It could be bad for Jermaine Defoe. It could be bad for Woking. You're listening to Hawksby and Jacobs on talkSPORT in partnership with Toolstation, open from 7 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Grab what you need, get on site, get it done. First stop, Toolstation.
Jack Grealish.
Yep.
Also going to be back at Man City.
Yep.
Next season.
It'd be interesting to see what happens with Jack if he's given a chance by Maresca, because he would have been part of that Man City squad that Maresca was at. Or will the manager think, no? And will Jack think, you know what, maybe I want to move on? I think it's still early doors. I think we have to see what happens over the next 6 weeks. Still 6 weeks left of the transfer window. Start of September, it closes. I don't see him staying there. I see him moving on.
Where?
It wouldn't surprise me if he moves somewhere else in Europe. I don't see him staying in the Premier League. So I think he's still got 1 year left, I think, of his contract. So the wages as well, will that be a problem for some of the clubs, maybe in the Premier League? But don't rule out maybe back to Everton. David Moyes loved him.
Yeah, he did well there.
Yeah, he done very well there.
Did well there. Okay, interesting. And then, of course, Rodri, reportedly waiting for Real Madrid president Florentino Perez to sanction his return to Spain. And then there's growing support for the move in the capital after he skipped them to the World Cup. Of course, as well, he's linked to Real Madrid. Do you see that one getting done?
It depends, because I did see that from Perez saying that it's not something that they want to do. And I don't think Manchester City are going to let him go on the cheap. I think before the World Cup, they maybe would have negotiated a deal. But his performances in the World Cup was the Rodri that won the Ballon d'Or a couple of seasons ago. That Rodri I wouldn't sell for anything less than 80, 90, 100 million if I'm Manchester City.
Anthony Joshua is on the road to destiny. But first, there is danger. Prenga, 20 wins, 20 knockouts. And AJ knows, one moment, one mistake, one punch will change history. AJ is back. But there is danger before destiny.
Good afternoon, thank you for joining us. We've got 45 minutes left till me and Andy sail off into the sunset for a few days.
We're going together, actually.
Yeah, we're going on a nice jolly. To Argentina.
No, we're not ready.
Not yet. We're not ready for that yet.
No.
Look, it's a welcome back to our weekly slot with Todd Macklin, where we're going to review all the latest from the US sports. So let's get straight into it. Todd, great to have you back on. How are you doing, mate?
Max, doing great. I hope you and Andy had a great World Cup. It didn't end, obviously, the way you wanted it to. I will say, of all the teams that didn't win, so basically everyone except Spain, I can't think there were too many nations as happy with their performance in the World Cup as Canada. People are euphoric in Canada and have been for the past few weeks, even after they lost to Morocco in the round of 16. People loved the World Cup, the vibe, the energy they got from it, and just, think things are much better things are to come for Canada at the World Cup. So
yeah, it's interesting. It's good that they enjoyed it. I don't think Jesse Marsh went down so well outside of Canada, though.
Especially not in the US.
No, people found him quite irritating.
Yeah, public enemy number one is old Jesse Marsh. But look, I mean, the 2026 World Cup might be over, but there were plenty of viral moments, weren't there, Todd? Talk us through some of the big stories in regards to that.
Yeah, well, I think the Scots, to me, the two big ones that stand out for me was Scotland and Boston. When that headline came out that the Scots drank Boston dry, it was just a fantastic storyline. And two, the other one was the Norwegian, the rowers. I remember during the World Cup watching the golf, right? And Victor Hovland was in a golf tournament in the U.S. somewhere, and the Norwegian fans who had watched them either the night before or 2 nights before all went to the golf tournament, and they were doing the rowing at the golf tournament. So for me, those were kind of the two that stood out. I think the last thing was we had 6 matches in Toronto, where I'm based, 6 World Cup matches there. And the marches to the stadium of the teams was just incredible. And these people weren't going to the game, but they would gather in a certain area of Toronto. And the big one for us was Croatia played Portugal. So you had all these, Croatian fans, Portuguese fans getting together, marching to the stadium. And again, some went to the game, not all. And the rest kind of either, watching at some sort of drinking establishment in the Toronto area. And it was just again, I always say about sports, nothing gathers people together like sport. And I just think the World Cup has been a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of fans discovered baseball, though, and Scotland fans went to Fenway and, came back loving it because it is a brilliant game live, baseball. It's, I think, better than it is on telly because you can see that.
100%. And especially Fenway Park. I mean, if you talk about some of the great cathedrals of baseball, I think Fenway Park and Wrigley Field in Chicago are at the top of the list. So, you know what, Andy, that's a great point. You had all these people that went to North America to watch football, but got a chance to experience the different sports. And as you mentioned, baseball. And I just think I was talking to my neighbor and his 2 sons, and they're from England. And to me, it just feels like you had all these people in North America experience football for the first time. And I just think it feels like it's going to stick. It's not like one of those events that, hey, it happened. I'm talking about specifically people in North America. Hey, it was here, it happened, and you kind of move on. I really feel it's stuck for a lot of people. And listen, that's why you do these things, right? That's why you move these events around. You hope it sticks with people and they become fans of your sport. And I really do think that was the case with football.
I do wonder what people in Chicago made of, because they missed out, didn't they? They didn't want to pay what FIFA wanted. Yes. I believe that's right, isn't it? And it's such a big sporting town. I'd imagine there are a lot of people in Chicago quite disappointed that they missed out on all this party.
I don't think there's any doubt if they looked and watched whatever their device was, their phone, their computer, you got a sense, and that's a great point, Andy, as well. You could feel the excitement. I think people had a hard time going back to their regular sports, which at this time of the year is baseball, because you had so much excitement. It felt like every World Cup game had excitement in it, and it was jarring for people to go from that to just a regular baseball game, right? Or a regular, the NBA Summer League, because there's just not that passion there was in the World Cup games, in kind of regular season games in the other sports that we're traditionally used to watching in the summer in North America.
You say, that you really get the feeling that football's going to stick in North America. Fans are really passionate about it. You can certainly hear that in your voice, Todd, and it's great to hear. We absolutely love that. Another story away from the World Cup that seems to be doing the rounds is around the next career step of Jake Paul. I think he's claiming that he's going to move to the NFL. Is this just his admission
It's ridiculous.
that Anthony Joshua ended his career and he's got to find somewhere else to be relevant?
It feels like it, but I will say this, and listen, I heard about Jake Paul long before the boxing. I heard about him through my kids.
Yeah.
Right? I remember the first time I heard about him boxing, and I'm like, who is this guy, this YouTuber? And I had to be educated by my kids that, like, Daddy's got a pretty big following on YouTube and that. But I'm like, yeah, whatever. I will give him credit. He's not much of a boxer. Man, could he take a punch, though?
Yeah.
But you know what? He changed boxing for the better. I mean, in North America, boxing before he became involved, and we can sit here and debate, his success or not success, but he made boxing relevant again, even if it was for a short period of time. I think there's no chance that, I will say that there's a 99% chance he doesn't make the NFL, but I'll give him a 1%. Because the guy surprised me before with boxing.
He won't. I don't think he will. We'll see. Now, one of the biggest players, I'm going to attempt... Oh, no, I'm not.
Giannis.
Let's call him Giannis. I can never...
Yes.
Antetokounmpo.
Oh, well done.
The Greek freak.
He's an amazing player. But it's interesting. He's left Milwaukee. He's gone to Miami. But the headline here is, he says it isn't his final destination. That's what you want when you sign a player. He says, oh, and I'm only passing through. Thanks. It's a strange comment, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it goes, Andy, to his love for Milwaukee. And what happens now in our sports. I don't think it's as prevalent as your sports, but it is absolutely prevalent in our sports. And that is a guy that moves on from a team he's synonymous with ends up signing like a one-day contract so he can say that he retired with that team. I'll give you an example. Kyle Lowry just recently did it with the Toronto Raptors, won a championship with the Raptors, ended his career with his hometown team in Philadelphia. But he was so connected and is so connected to the Raptors. He's going to have his jersey retired this year, is Kyle Lowry, that he wanted to retire as a Raptor. You sign a one-day contract, you have a big press conference, they retire your jersey. My sense is that's what's going to happen with Giannis. He's going to play out his career with Miami. He hopes there's another championship in his career, but he's going to retire as a Buck. He's going to have his jersey retirement. And I think that's important for him and the franchise. And we see it so often in North American sport.
Just on that, Todd, because, Giannis Antetokounmpo is one of the greatest exports from European basketball into the NBA, and he's a part of a whole horde of players that have just been fantastic, whether it's from Europe, whether it's from Africa, that are now playing their trade in the NBA. He's one of the greatest we've seen in a generation. We all know, well, NBA fans will know about, Miami Heat's, quote, winning culture. Eric Spoelstra still a head coach there. What are the chances that he actually wins a championship with them?
I will say this, Max. If LeBron James, who's still a free agent, who we're all waiting on to pick his destination, if LeBron James signs with the Heat, I think for me, his chances go way up. I think his chances are higher because he's in the Eastern Conference. And all of us just kind of look at the Eastern Conference and just think it doesn't take as much to win in the East. In the West right now, you have the Spurs and the Thunder, and I think they're universally regarded. Even though the Knicks won the championship, I think we all look at the Thunder and the Spurs and think they're the two best teams.
Yeah.
You got to go through them, and it's more wide open in the East. And I think Giannis being in Miami in the East has a much better chance.
Brilliant stuff. Todd, thank you so much for joining us, mate. Absolute pleasure. Good to have you back.
Yep.
See you, boys. Great to be back.
That's Todd Macklin, US sports expert, bringing us a roundup of all the latest sports coming out of the US, particularly away from the World Cup. Stick with us, though, here on Hawksby and Jacobs. Up next, we're going to bring you a World Cup bumper special of Clips of the Week.
if it is true, that is the one for Tottenham, the one that got away. If you think about what Abramovich did to Chelsea, did to Premier League football, did to world football, he was a benefactor.
He turned you into a big
monster. Yeah, he turned us into a monster.
Yeah, he did, because you wasn't a big club before him. It was an average size club.
I mean, we certainly, if you want to do this, which I don't suggest you should, but if you want to do this, in the 10 years prior to Abramovich, Chelsea won more than you've won in the Premier League era.
Up the Chelsea.
In the 10 years.
Honestly, you and Cundy.
In the 10 years, because you can't let it go. You say one thing and I just
one thing. Like, I literally just said one thing and that was it. Like, bang, I got the fishing rod out.
Yeah. In the 10 years prior to
big one.
You have. In the 10 years prior to Abramovich taking over Chelsea, so just go the 10 years prior to that, Chelsea won more than Tottenham have in the entire Premier League era. So you want to, when you know that run.
Did you win the Cup Winners' Cup?
We won. We did win the Cup Winners' Cup. Yeah. Yes, we did.
Good trophy.
We did win the Cup Winners' Cup. Yes, we did.
We won the Audi Cup.
We won the FA Cup. We won the League Cup. We won the Super Cup, beating Real Madrid in Monaco. Gus Poyet scoring the winner. We didn't lose to Tottenham at home for 27 years. A lot of that record obviously stretched into that pre-Abramovich period.
Yeah.
We didn't. I mean, we were calling it 3-point lane.
Been 3-point lane for a while.
We were calling it 3-point lane way before Roman Abramovich came.
Anthony Joshua is on the road to destiny. But first, there is danger. Prenga, 20 wins, 20 knockouts. And AJ knows, one moment, one mistake, one punch will change history. AJ is back. But there is danger before destiny.
Clips of the week on talkSPORT with Toolstation. First stop, Toolstation.
talkSPORT Clips of the Week.
Yeah, it's that time of the week where we give you the clips of the week, but this is a special one. It is a World Cup bumper edition. This is the part of the show I've been looking forward to the most. What a great way to end the 3-day stint on Hawksbee and Jacobs. And this is all, of course, thanks to Toolstation. Do you want to get things underway, Andy?
Yeah, I'd love to. And we kick things off on breakfast with a very enthusiastic caller who's clearly counting down the days until the World Cup.
Let's go to Neil, a commentary fan. Morning, Neil.
Morning, Neil.
How are we doing, guys?
We're good, man. We're good. How are you? You excited about it?
No.
Oh.
Tremendous. Thanks very much.
Were you did you get World Cup fever?
Of course I did, yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I wonder why I was calling up. Now, you may recall this one from Darren Bent, in which he couldn't get out of the rhythm of saying Brian Brobby.
Murray, you must be impressed with Brian Brobby. Had a really good season at Sunderland, done really well. And this tournament, I think he's looked really, really good. I think he's up there in terms of the Golden Brute race as well.
The Golden Brute, sure, that's somebody from Gladiators.
Yeah. I mean, he has got them about. I can't remember the game. I think it was the Sweden game. Sweden had just absolutely battered somebody else, I think 4-1 in the opener. And it looked like it could be a really close game. Brian Brobby started that game. He was unbelievable. I mean, Sunderland, what an absolute signing that is.
Great bit of recruitment.
Yeah, brilliant.
Next, Jermaine Pennant with a mix-up that raises a few questions.
Let's defend like Trojans. Let's all sit back. And Tuchel's probably thought, you know what? Mexico's playing in the back of the minds. Yeah, we can see this out. We are top-notch at defending. Big Sam Byrne, he'll let everything away.
Is that Big Sam Allardyce or Big Dan Byrne? I can't work it out.
I tell you what, Dan Byrne, I think of the players that there were questions about, Andy, coming into the World Cup. Dan Byrne, John Stones, Jed Spence, they all came out of it, smelling like roses. I thought they were all really good, weren't they? Now, former England defender Alvin Martin delivering a rather unique choice of words.
The referee didn't give the free kick at the time, so it's a throw into Canada. Well, he did give it a free kick, and there was a real yell there, wasn't there, from McAway? And the referees they seem to turn a blind ear to that now.
Deaf ear, but never mind. Okay, here's some impressive maths from Jason Cundy as he discusses Brazil.
Brazil, they haven't covered themselves much glory. I thought they were pretty poor, actually, throughout this World Cup. And Ancelotti, of course, he's not getting any younger. He's going to be 4 years old at the next World Cup.
Yeah, as we all will be.
I tell you what, that's along the lines of things you didn't realise. Texting Jason Cundy says, didn't realise that you get 4 years older. Now it's Martin Keown, whose commentary briefly wanders into unfamiliar waters.
They were immensely professional. The fact that the French weren't is nothing to do with us. We'll take advantage of that. Now, they woke up, of course, at half-time. I understand there was a row in the dressing room for the French, and they didn't want their manager to go out on such a damp squid.
Squib.
Squids
have to be damp. Squib's a kind of firework, isn't it? So if it's damp, it won't.
Well, that's another thing I didn't realise. So you said it earlier, actually, when we listened to these.
And a lot of people think it is damp squid, but that makes no sense because a squid has to be damp, otherwise it'd basically die, wouldn't it? Really?
Is the Pope Catholic? Absolutely. Is it your go or my go?
I don't mind.
Oh, go on then.
Here's former referee Chris Foy discussing one of England's unlikely heroes.
I think the other one that I found interesting, I think there's a 50-50 split on this, was the penalty award on DJ Ed Spence.
We love DJ Ed Spence.
DJ Ed Spence. DJ Ed's never been mentioned more, I think, during this World Cup. And this is Max Rushton with just a good old recovery.
I think France and Spain are looking at that going, whichever one of us wins this, look at that shit. Look at the rabble.
Rabble. Thanks. And finally, newsreader Nick Ellaby predicting just how England's World Cup would go.
Thomas Tuchel and England are in Miami to begin their World Cup preparations.
Bin them.
Nick the Prophet, Ellaby. Brilliant stuff. Right, that was Clips of the Week brought to you by Toolstation. Remember, if you want to hear it again, you can catch it on the Clips of the Week podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to check out the H&J Daily, where you can catch all the best bits from the 1 till 4 p.m. show.
Clips of the Week on talkSPORT with Toolstation. First stop, Toolstation.
I mean, this text topic that you gave out earlier has been a long-running theme in this show, Andy, and it's just still going. Jason Brewer gets in touch, says, my colleague Anita thought Rosetta Stone was a person running language classes.
That's good.
My mum bought me a Rosetta Stone VHS. She, of course, because of our Argentinian connections, was very keen on me learning Spanish from a very young age.
How did it go?
It went okay, but not great. I mean, if my Argentinian friends won't be listening, but they would say I'm shocking at speaking Spanish. But then when I'm with my English mates abroad, they say I'm not too bad. But I must say, I never watched it. The Rosetta Stone, it's probably still got dust in the family home somewhere.
I've tried Michelle Thomas, Duolingo, and now I'm on to Jump Speak.
Jump Speak? How's what
none of it's helping.
So yeah, what's yours like? When you go there, do you sort of?
It's difficult. It's all right for a while. If you're practicing and speaking, and then you get the hang of it, and then your ear gets attuned to it.
Yeah.
But as soon as you go away from it, as soon as you don't practice, it just goes right out of my head.
When's your next trip? Are you going to be allowed back in?
Well, hopefully, yeah, we'll see. I don't know exactly. Yeah, no, they seem all right about it. But it's funny, isn't it? You see this story here. Falklands bowler criticises Argentina World Cup banner.
What's a Falklands bowler?
Falkland Islands bowler in the Commonwealth Games, Cecil Alexander.
Okay, great name.
Called Argentinians World Cup banner disappointing.
Well, no wonder. There was a referendum just a couple of years ago.
I know, 98% said they wanted to stay there.
Yeah, that was one of the more distasteful elements of what we saw from Argentina.
It will be interesting. I mean, we're seeing the Emmy Martinez there. Garnacho. There's a few Argentine.
Valentin Barco, who of course got slapped from Jude Bellingham.
McAllister, there are a few. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, I think for the first few games that those anyone that was in that squad, obviously
probably get a bit of.
They're going to get a bit of flack, but we'll soon forget once we're back into the sort of swing of things in the Premier League. But let's head back to Glasgow, get the latest from the Commonwealth Games from Michael Wadop.
Yeah, well, England's Mark Swan has won the first gold medal of the Glasgow 2026 Commonwealth Games. We're watching the men's lightweight powerlifting at the Armadillo, and it was the most dramatic of circumstances. Swan actually lifted more than 3 times his body weight, so he posted 222 kilograms on his second attempt. That tied him for gold with the Nigerian veteran Roland Ezeriki on 153.9 points, because what happens is there is a mathematic calculation compared to what you actually lift above yourself and your body weight. Malaysia's Bonnie Gustin, who's the 2-time Paralympic champion and the world record holder, couldn't produce the goods on his final lift, so he relinquished the title he won in Birmingham 4 years ago, and Mark Swan upgraded that silver medal from Birmingham to gold on a mathematical equation after fouling his final lift. So 232 kilograms, he couldn't quite get that up, but the second round scores meant that he has won the gold medal. We're currently watching 2 more Team England athletes here, Olivia Broom and Charlotte McGuinness. Olivia Broom, 2-time Paralympic medalist. Charlotte is making her debut at the Games. They're in the women's lightweight category, but Team England and Mark Swan have won the very first gold medal of Glasgow 2026.
Daily Tournament Roundup on talkSPORT. Brought to you by Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Whatever it is, we're here for it.
Brilliant stuff from Michael and the gang doing the Commonwealth Games.
Lovely, yeah. This is an interesting thing. This is nearly 1 in 11 sessions of school were missed by pupils the day after England's overnight World Cup clash with Mexico. It's not really surprising. The pupil absence rate in England was estimated 8.7%. Nearly 10% of all kids didn't go to school the next day. I think that's fair enough. I'm sure they survived. But this surprised me. The rate measures the proportion of school sessions missed in state-funded schools, where 1 session equals half a day. What a strange way of doing it. Why don't you just say they missed, 11 sessions of school? I don't get what that is, but obviously what it meant was 10% of kids weren't there the next day.
Well, I used to be a deputy head at a secondary school in Bournemouth, and look, lots of my old students now listen to talkSPORT and they get in touch and they're very kind and they're very supportive, all that sort of stuff. So, but they will see
Even
the irony.
You flog.
Yeah, in me absolutely hammering them for their attendance or going on holiday a day early for summer holidays. But I just think it's a World Cup. Thomas Tuchel got it nailed on, to be fair. Just give them a day off and let the parents decide, basically. It's one of those things that comes around every 4 years. You get 4 years older.
Well, it's better than the Scotland. That was mad when Scotland got a day off. They played Saturday night and then they all got a day off on Monday.
Yeah.
That made no sense at all.
Funny one. For their only win, wasn't it? Was that for the Haiti game?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was their World Cup.
Yeah, good World Cup for Scotland. You're listening to Talkspin Jacobs on talkSPORT in partnership with Toolstation. First stop for everything for the job from 7 a.m. Monday till Saturday. Start strong, start it right. First stop, Toolstation. Next up, we're going to get the very latest from the transfer window with our very own Ben Jacobs.
Jurgen Klopp has today been appointed as the new national team manager. As a Liverpool fan, would you spend the money on Diamonde as a sort of up-and-coming prospect, or would you go for Barcola as the ready-made replacement for Mo Salah?
I'm not sure on Barcola. I'd probably Diamonde. I like him. but it's 110 million quid for potential.
Mm.
When you're paying 110 million quid for potential nowadays, I don't love that. And that's a problem. And that's where the market is, unfortunately. So it's a tough one. Liverpool have to replace Salah. They need wide players. Now they're talking about some player from Monaco who's probably would have been fifth choice at the start of the summer. So Liverpool fans would probably spontaneously combust if that's the only signing that came in those positions. I don't think they'll get the Monday. I think that's PSG all over. So then you're going to go for Barcola now, who Arsenal want as well.
Yeah.
And he's a very, very good player, but he's not in the PSG side, is he? 99% of the time. So he's in and out. I don't know. I'm torn. Is there any other options, I would say, to the recruitment department of Liverpool?
Jurgen Klopp, by the way, just rounding off that conversation, one of his standout quotes today.
I love that.
I'm not doing this job for you. I'm for myself. I'm doing it for you, the German fans. I mean,
No,
he knows exactly what to say.
That wasn't the quote I saw. The one I liked was, if you go after my family, I'm gone. If you
Anthony Joshua is on the road to destiny. But first, there is danger. Prenga, 20 wins, 20 knockouts. And AJ knows, one moment, one mistake, one punch will change history. AJ is back. But there is danger before destiny.
Good afternoon. It's 3:45. 14 minutes left for me and Andy. We've absolutely loved this afternoon. It's been great. We've had some wonderful texts, some great guests, but we are absolutely clucking to get out after a busy World Cup and have a few days off. A reminder, following us on Drive, we've got Andy Goldstein and Troy Deeney. And then from 7 till 10, a Commonwealth Games special. Natalie Sawyer is going to be joined by the lovely Greg Rutherford, breaking down all the action from Glasgow. We've heard from Michael Waddock, England got their first goal. Team England, first goal of the game so far. And then from 10 p.m. till 1 a.m, it's the Sports Bar. It's the Woking phone-in with Ben Fletcher and Carlton Cole. But now we're going to head in, talk about some transfers. Just waiting for Ben Jacobs to join us. But
yeah, it's hotting up though, isn't it?
It is indeed. I mean, we're going to ask him about Lacroix, of course, Crystal Palace centre-back, who had a wonderful season, winning stuff under Oliver Glasner. He's had a great World Cup. That is exactly what Chelsea have been calling out for, isn't it?
Bit of experience, yeah, but they got 7 centre-halves. What are they going to do? They're going to have to flog quite a lot of players still. There'll be some good bargains to be had from Chelsea, I think.
What about John Stones? Would you want him?
I don't think they need him. I'd love him. I mean, he's a great player. I mean, Arsenal looking at him, I think any club would be
on a
happy
free,
to have,
though. On a free.
Well, got to pay his wages. But any club would be happy to have him. He's a tremendous player if he can stay fit. But, he's got great experience.
That's it.
We'll see.
Yeah, the leadership I think that Chelsea probably need. Well, delighted to say Ben Jacobs is with us, another man that's been working incredibly hard during this World Cup, whether it's, getting info on the White House intervention or just chucking fish around in Seattle. Ben, thanks for joining us. And, you've been across it. The hours must be a lot easier for you now you're back in the UK. How are you feeling sort of settling back in?
Yeah, don't forget I won a hot dog eating contest as well on the 4th of July. I'm pretty proud of that, and against an American, no less. And yeah, the market's heating up. I suppose we've got a bit of limbo because some players returning from the World Cup are on holiday, but definitely glad to be +8 rather than -8 trying to cover a transfer market.
It's interesting because you've specialised as well as all the other transfers in Saudi football. Were you surprised that Somerville would opt, at this stage in his career, would opt for Saudi? It must have been good money.
Yeah, good money, but also I think there's a logic now of go to Saudi. It's a bit more developed than 2023, go younger and still give yourself the opportunity to then move again. And if you're between the ages of arguably up to 27, 28, but certainly I feel 18 to 24 or so, do your 2 years, make sure that you're not going to get a big tax bill, come back. And that's the thing that's changed really, because the Saudi market, a lot of these clubs, as they privatize, Al Hilal are no longer owned by PIF, Al Qadsiya are owned by Aramco. And as more privatization happens, the clubs realize that two-way business is really important, which means that they are prepared to sign a younger player like Somerville and then potentially sell them in 2 to 3 years. And in the end, these deals can suit all parties. And if you're a player like Crescencio Somerville, why not take the money earlier in your career, set up your family for life, and still open the door to return and play Champions League football at some point when you're also still peak age? So this is a £55 million deal, plus add-ons taking it somewhere close to 65 million, 4-year contract signed, and the official announcement is expected either later today or by the earliest lunch tomorrow.
It's interesting. I mean, because it's a narrow English view, but when I watched Ivan Toney in that game he played, the last game, I thought, oh, it's such a waste playing over there. He'd still be brilliant in the Premier League. Obviously, they don't see it that way, and I'm sure people in Saudi Arabia don't see it that way either.
Yeah, and also it's just about how fast the league grows, right? Because Cristiano Ronaldo would say the league now versus when he joined and was a pioneer, 2 completely different levels of standard and infrastructure. And we mustn't assume the Saudi league is always going to have limitations. There's a debate, of course, because it's a different culture. It's later training. Not every player likes that. And coupled with the fact that the standard of opposition in an Asian Champions League, as amazing as it is for Ivan Toney to have won that twice, is not the same as a European Champions League. So there's a whole argument that the beauty of European football is that outside of any individual country, you get a high standard and opportunities to go in the big 5 leagues or beyond. Whereas even if Saudi Arabia becomes the best domestic league in the world, do you have that same appeal as the Asian Champions League versus the European one? But I think that I look at the Premier League in 1992, 1993, and broadly, it wasn't until about 2000 when we suddenly realised that many of the best foreign players were coming there. So give or take, that's an 8-year period. Saudi is currently heading into its 4th year. And if we give it another 4 years, who knows where the league will be? And that's why a lot of these younger players are banking on the fact that the league will grow. And if it doesn't, they'll come back in their mid or late 20s and they'll still have plenty of suitors.
Ben, Chelsea are doing their bit to turn the tide of opinion from fans in just making some top signings, whether it's in the dugout, whether it's in the squad. Of course, we've seen what's been going on with Morgan Rogers, but Marsens Lacroix from Crystal Palace, I mean, that seems to be pretty close now.
Yeah, it's done in principle. In fact, he's undergoing the medical today, so formalisation will now happen very quickly. He's been at the World Cup, so no suggestion he's going to fly out for Chelsea's tour of Asia. And before that, they head to Australia. They've got that game against Spurs, don't forget, in pre-season. And this deal is worth in excess of £50 million. Chelsea sources say it's around the 52 million number, which is significant because that's an identical fee that saw Jan-Paul van Hecke leave Brighton for Tottenham. I was always told that it might creep ever so slightly higher than that number, but it's safe to say it's in and around 52. It's a 6-year contract, and Lacroix was Chelsea's top choice at centre-back. And as you rightly say, if you add Morgan Rogers and Palestra, who's very much a Xabi Alonso signing, they'll very likely add in central midfield, even though Chelsea sources insist they're not going to try and hijack Arsenal's pursuit of Bruno Guimaraes. But this is not the end. Chelsea will have, in my opinion, at least one more starter, if not 2 senior squad players coming in, plus the fact that they might, if you include the loans, have nearly a dozen outgoings to resolve, including Trevor Chalobah, and Como are hoping to close that deal under former Chelsea manager Cesc Fabregas.
Yeah, they need to sell. They've got 7 centre-halves, so they've got to sell a few of them, that's for sure. Yeah, what else we got there?
Well, you mentioned Bruno Guimaraes. I mean, he's been linked to Arsenal the entire summer. Is there do you expect that to happen, Ben? And is there a massive reluctance from Newcastle, or have they been able to sort of ramp up the price to something that they're more comfortable with?
Yeah, it's kind of gone from a massive reluctance and not for sale at any price to it will take an astronomical offer, which in this inflated market, Newcastle are perfectly entitled to do. They don't yet have a bidding war to hike up the price, which is what happened with West Ham, Tottenham versus Manchester United for Mateus Fernandes. But naturally, it's going to take something special, and I'm told signed off at ownership, not sporting level, to sell Bruno Guimaraes because of what he represents to this Newcastle United project, and because Sandro Tonali has already left. Bamba came in today, a phenomenal signing, by the way. I've watched a lot of him at Monaco, but he's only 20 years of age. He's taken Sandro Tonali's number, by the way. And from Arsenal's perspective, it would be, according to my information, their third bid. But Newcastle, whether semantics or reality, and we have to be fair to both sides, deny any formal contact or any bid. So it's a tough one to cover because you've got the players' agency, other super agents involved, so basically third parties, intermediaries with different mandates and different relationships. You've got the ownership at Newcastle involved, and you've got Arsenal's ownership and sporting team involved, and they've bounced around various numbers. Arsenal sources would call it a bid. Newcastle sources say they've got to knock on the front door and start formal negotiations. Otherwise, there's no decision to be made. But I come back to kind of two things. One, Bruno Guimaraes has already agreed terms and wants the move. I doubt he'll do what Alex Isak did and refuse to train or play, but it's still significant. And then two, if Arsenal sources are to be believed, this is going to be their third bid. And whether or not they have enough confidence, therefore, to now go to Newcastle and get the deal done is a debate. But usually Arsenal don't bid and bid and bid, and that's what Arsenal sources said they've done. 2 + 1 to come, unless they've got some optimism that they can get the deal over the line. So we'll have to see how it develops because it's a very sensitive situation. But I am expecting clarity on this sooner rather than later because Newcastle United don't want this to overshadow their entire pre-season, nor does Guimaraes, and nor do Arsenal.
And finally, Ben, just quickly before we finish, what can you tell us about the future of Harry Kane? I mean, there was some brief reports in the summer that Barcelona might be interested.
Going nowhere, surely.
Surely, yeah. He's just going to finish his career out at Bayern Munich.
Yeah, just before Kane, just a tiny bit of breaking news reaching me, which is on Florentino, the Burnley midfielder, and Hull City are in advanced talks there and are expected to close that deal. And that's coming from both myself and chief football correspondent Alex Crook. With Harry Kane, Bayern expect him to sign a new deal. I ran a piece yesterday that stated talks are going to accelerate now. And Kane, before the World Cup, told Bayern he wanted to stay. So even though Al Hilal made a recent approach and one last summer, and even though Barcelona also made a call this summer, my expectation is that Kane is going to stay at Bayern, and we might not have to wait too long for that extension to happen.
What nationality is the bloke joining Hull? We can tick that one off the tweet.
Portuguese, yeah.
Portuguese.
So you can cross that off.
What percentage was that one this morning?
I think it was about 80%.
Oh, was it? Okay, good.
There you go.
Perfect.
You've got
so now we can say it's at least 85. According to my information, it's close to 99, but we'll see.
That's fantastic.
Ben, brilliant stuff, mate.
Cheers.
Thanks for all your work this summer.
Thanks a lot.
That is Ben Jacobs with all the latest. I know I say this, but head to the website for all the breaking news on the website of Ben's saying goodbye to the production staff there. And well, that's it.
Okay, start playing Cliff Richard's Summer Holiday. Come on.
Yeah, give us a summer tune on the way out. When are you back, Andy? Then? Oh, you got a nice
I'm only a week off, and I'm back on Monday, August the whatever it is, 4th.
For more transfer tittle tattle and Premier League build-up.
Well, of course.
Well, it's been an absolute blast these last few days. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. The Friday Drive boys are coming up next. It's Andy Goldstein and Troy Deeney. Have a belter of a weekend, everyone.
Obviously, you've got Kai Havertz, who was missing for most of last season. He's back and available and can play either as your centre forward or off your centre forward, which again shows a little bit more congestion in that kind of attacking midfield role. So I think when you zoom out, bigger picture, the squad still has enough. It has a lot of depth. But I think the reason there's a bit of nervousness around the Arsenal fan base right now is because we see an opportunity. We win the league for the first time in 22 years. Manchester City have lost Pep Guardiola. He's moved on. Maresca's a great coach, but is he Pep Guardiola? I'm not sure he is. In fact, I'm certain he's not. You look at Liverpool, new coach starting the project again. Chelsea under Alonso. Really good coach, but they're going to need time. Man United are not quite there yet. There's an opportunity for Arsenal to not just consolidate, but to take another step and dominate for a period of time. And I think that's why there's a nervousness around this transfer window. Last year, it was about, can we do the business to get us over the line? We've done that. Now it's about, can we do the business
Champions League?
Yeah, to consolidate our position and to dominate. And I think that's why people are quite anxious at the minute.
See, why can't all the Arsenal fans be like Harry? Not
measured.
don't be like Piers Morgan, Joel Bayer, Troops, all these